Hey guys, tonight we're boarding a ship you would never want to set foot on. You might think life at sea in the Middle Ages meant freedom, adventure, maybe a bit of glory. Yeah, no. The real story? You're trapped on a rotting coffin of wood and rope with a crew that's starving, sick, and one bad day away from tearing each other apart. The captain rules through fear, the food could kill you, and the storms don't care if you can swim. And then the whispers start. Mutiny. This isn't a noble voyage. It's a slow, grinding death where the sea isn't your only enemy. This is why you wouldn't survive a medieval mutiny at sea, and by the end of tonight, you'll be glad you never left the shore. So before you get too cozy, take a second to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy this strange little corner of quiet storytelling. And drop a comment with where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's strangely comforting to know who else is drifting off with us around the world. Now get comfortable, let the day melt away, and we'll drift back together into the quiet corners of the past. You've made it. The shore is slipping away, and for the first time in what feels like ages, you're free. You stand at the edge of the ship, a slight breeze tugging at your cloak, your eyes tracing the horizon as the sails fill with the promise of adventure. The sea stretches out before you, vast and endless, whispering of treasure, glory, and the freedom you've always dreamed of. Here, on this ship, you can finally leave behind the burdens of land, the weight of endless toil, and the crushing confines of the village. The endless grind of the fields, the smelly streets, the noisy taverns. All of it is behind you now, swallowed by the sea. And ahead, only open waters, only the unknown. The deck beneath your feet creaks like a tired old man, groaning as the ship begins its slow, rhythmic swaying. But it's a comforting sound. You tell yourself the ship knows what it's doing, that she's been on these waters longer than any of us. It's a feeling of motion, of something new, of a life that's finally starting to move somewhere. The soft slapping of waves against the hull is a lullaby, gentle and sure, and the air smells of salt and the faintest trace of fish. The crew is busy with their work, hoisting sails, checking ropes, adjusting the rigging. They all look like they know what they're doing, and for a moment, you think you've joined the right company. The sea doesn't care about your innocence, though. You can already feel her pulse, heavy and alive beneath the surface. But right now, she's just a sea, a vast expanse of deep blue stretching out under a sky that couldn't possibly feel more serene. This moment? This is the calm before the storm. The captain walks past you, his boots thudding against the deck in a rhythm of their own. He barely notices you, and you're thankful for that. You're not here to make waves, just to survive. But the captain? His eyes gleam in the sun, always calculating, always scanning the horizon like a hawk, looking for its prey. The crew fears him, and for good reason. You heard the stories, how he came up through the ranks, how he took this ship by force, how he's never been one to spare mercy. But right now, you're still on land. You're still standing at the edge of the known world, watching the coast become a thin strip of green and brown, a fading memory. The waves are gentle now, barely more than ripples, but you know they'll turn against you in time. You can feel the weight of it in your bones, the subtle, creeping awareness that this isn't just a journey to foreign shores. It's a battle, a long, unforgiving struggle between man and nature, and somewhere along the way, man will lose. But that's later. For now, everything feels easy. Even the ship's groaning feels like a comforting hum, like she's telling you it's all right. We've been here before. We've seen worse. And then there's the crew. These men, they're not the same as the ones you saw in the tavern back home. Those men had dreams of coin and wine, of brawls and bragging rights. These men are different. Their eyes tell stories you don't want to hear. They've seen things. The men you'll spend the next few months with are rough, hardened by the sea in a way that makes them look like ghosts already. There's a kind of camaraderie here that doesn't require words. It's a bond forged in salt water and suffering, in things unsaid and hard work. You wonder if they'd leave you to drown without a second thought. Maybe they would, but there's no time to wonder for long. There's too much to focus on, like how the wind is shifting, how the sails are catching it with a soft snap, how you're picking up speed now, pushing farther and farther away from the land you once knew, and then it hits you. The realization. You're not on solid ground anymore. You're adrift. Free, sure, but vulnerable in ways you can't fully understand. You've been sold the dream of treasure and glory, but no one warned you about the price. The risk. The endless hours of discomfort that come with being stuck in a metal and wood box floating on nothing but air and water. You glance at the horizon again. The coast is barely a memory now, a thin line of brown against the ever-expanding blue. It's beautiful, sure, but it's also terrifying. The sea is full of promises, but she's fickle. You've heard the stories. The ships lost to storms, to pirates, to disease. You've seen the dark, foreboding clouds gather over the horizon, like the sky itself is preparing for a fight. And in that moment, you realize that you may be surrounded by men, but out here, you're utterly alone. You try to shake it off. No time to be nervous. No time for fear. You're here now, and there's no turning back. But as you stare out over the endless expanse of water, you wonder if you made the right choice. Is this freedom, or is it just a slow death disguised as adventure? You don't know yet, but the answer will come soon enough. And it won't be kind. For now, though, the sea is calm, but it won't stay that way. The storm is always waiting, just beneath the surface. And you're just another fool who thinks they're safe, just another body caught in the current, waiting to be swept away. The ship creaks beneath you, its every groan and shudder a reminder that this thing wasn't built to last. The wood, warped by years of salt water and neglect, seems as if it's being held together by little more than the thin threads of desperation and hope. You thought the ship would feel majestic, maybe even a little grand. After all, it's your vessel to freedom, to adventure, to whatever's waiting out there on the horizon. Instead, it's a poorly constructed pile of rotting wood and rusted nails, a glorified raft held together by sheer willpower and the stubbornness of men who've grown too accustomed to the stench of decay. It's big, sure, but you're starting to realize it's big for all the wrong reasons. It's big because there's a lot of space for misery to spread, for filth to accumulate, for everything to rot faster than you can blink. The smell hits you like a slap to the face. It's an aggressive blend of salt water, sweat, and something fouler, something more pervasive. The air smells of old fish, of dampness and mildew, of rot. You look down at the planks beneath your feet, slick with a mixture of water and vomit, and you feel it then. The overwhelming sense that you're not just standing on a ship, you're standing on a floating death trap. The air is thick with it, and it's already creeping into your lungs, sticking to your skin like a second layer of grime. Every breath feels like it's too much. You try to avoid looking too closely at the men around you, though it's impossible not to notice the sickly pallor of their faces, the hollow eyes. They're all trying to pretend they're all right, to act like they know what they're doing, but it's a losing battle. They're sick too. The sweat stains on their shirts tell a story of long, hard days and worse nights. You hear coughing, the kind that comes from deep in the chest, the kind that doesn't stop when you want it to. A few men stagger around the deck with unsteady steps, their heads hanging low as if the weight of the ship itself is pressing down on their bodies. But it's not just their health that's deteriorating. It's the ship. Above you, the sails flap and snap in the wind, but they seem to groan under the pressure. You can feel the tension in the ropes, straining against the canvas like they're fighting a losing battle. The masts bend slightly with each gust, the wood protesting with every twist. How long can this ship hold itself together? You don't know. But the creaks of the hull, the whistling wind through cracks in the boards, suggest not long. And that feeling, it's sinking in now. That slow, creeping awareness that you're not just at sea. You're in a coffin that's floating on a sea of uncertainty. The deck beneath you is nothing more than patched up boards, each step a gamble. You shift your weight, and the planks shift with you. You wonder if any of them are solid. You wonder if one might crack, sending you straight to the bottom, to join whatever drowned bodies have already settled in the deep. The ship doesn't feel like a vessel of hope anymore. It feels like a ticking time bomb, held together by desperation, the crew's resilience, and perhaps a little too much good luck. As you walk through the ship, you notice the crew seems to have claimed their corners. Some men huddle near the rudder, others by the hold, where the barrels of salted meat and dried fish line the walls. But it doesn't take long for the reality to set in. The food? It's rotting too. The water? Stale, briny, and teeming with whatever bacteria can survive in such conditions. You know the stories. How sailors drink this filth because the alternative, dying of thirst, is worse. The meat is so dried out that it barely qualifies as food. The fish, long past their prime, are barely fit for feeding the rats. But that doesn't stop you from chewing through it, trying to convince yourself that this is the life you chose. As you walk through the narrow corridors of the ship, you spot the mess. It's not just the sailors who are suffering. The ship's hold is a cluttered pit of mismanaged supplies. You see empty barrels, broken crates, and too many sacks of grain that are being consumed by mold faster than they can be eaten. The ship's belly is full of goods, but most of it is useless now. You glance at the piles of rotten food, the torn sails, the rusted tools scattered around. It's not a well-maintained vessel. It's a floating graveyard for forgotten supplies, for men who'll never see the shore again. And the worst part? You're starting to accept it. You're starting to understand that you're not on some noble quest. You're stuck here, on a rotting ship, with too many men and too little food. The dreams of treasure and glory are starting to feel like they belong to another lifetime, another version of you. The salt water stings your eyes, but it's nothing compared to the sting of realization that you're trapped, just like everyone else. The charm of the sea, the promise of adventure, it's fading now, slipping away like the shore you left behind. All that's left is the overwhelming weight of this place. The ship, the men, the smell, the grime. It's sinking in now. You aren't leaving the land behind. You're simply carrying it with you. Only now, it's worse. It's worse because you're no longer just part of the land. You're part of the ship. And the ship, well, it's not long for this world. Neither are you. The waves are restless tonight. You can feel them in your bones, a rolling, relentless motion that refuses to be ignored. At first, it's just a gentle sway, like the rocking of a cradle. But as the hours pass, it becomes something more. The ship groans under the strain of the swelling tide, its timbers creaking like old bones. Every so often, a particularly nasty wave slams against the side of the ship, sending a shudder through the whole structure. You try to close your eyes, to will yourself into sleep, but the smell inside the cramped quarters is enough to keep you wide awake. The stench of sweat, of salt, of sickness. It fills your nostrils and sinks into your skin. There's no escaping it. The men around you are all too quiet for comfort, their breaths shallow, the occasional cough or groan of discomfort, breaking the silence like a distant warning. The air feels thick and oppressive, as if the very ship itself is holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. It's impossible to ignore the sounds that seep into the night. The groans of men, the splashing of something being thrown overboard, the constant lapping of waves against the hull. Someone's retching in the distance, and it's only a matter of time before the next body joins in. You've heard about seasickness, of course. The stories, the warnings. But this is worse than anything you imagined. You feel the bile rise in your throat with every roll of the ship, the heavy, queasy feeling settling deep in your stomach. You turn to your side, trying to find a position that might make the spinning stop, but it doesn't help. The blanket they gave you is thin, soaked in the damp air, and the body heat of the men pressed around you. Every breath you take feels like it's filled with more than just air, more like the collective misery of everyone packed into this small, foul-smelling room. You can hear the sound of someone vomiting over the edge of the ship, the sickening splash of liquid hitting the water below. Another man joins in, and then another. The rhythmic, nauseating sound of bodies emptying themselves into the abyss is enough to make your stomach churn all over again. There's no escape from it. The ship is too small, the walls too thin. The stench of vomit and sweat and fear is a constant, suffocating presence. You try to focus on anything else, anything at all, but your mind keeps drifting back to the unrelenting waves and the sickness gnawing at your insides. The sounds of the crew are louder now, as the ship pitches and rolls with each new wave, the sickening rhythm playing over and over in your mind, like a song you can't escape. You realize, then, this isn't just a ship. It's a prison. There's no comfort in the space you're in. The air is stagnant, filled with the smell of human bodies and stale breath. There's no privacy here, no space to stretch your legs or even lie without bumping into someone else. The men around you are all too familiar with this discomfort. Their faces are hollow, their eyes dull and unfocused as they try to sleep through it, just like you. But the waves never stop, and the ship never ceases its groaning. It's as if it knows you're all at its mercy, and it delights in reminding you of that fact at every turn. You try to shut your eyes, to will yourself to sleep, but the movement of the ship is like a cruel joke, making your body fight against itself. Each wave that crashes into the ship sends a jolt of panic through you, reminding you that at any moment, this could be your last night. You hear a man nearby, his breathing ragged, his voice hoarse. Another round of sickness. Another victim. His retching echoes through the air. A miserable soundtrack to a night that feels like it will never end. You want to say something, to offer comfort, but you can't even find the strength to lift your head off the makeshift pillow. The nausea is overwhelming, and you wonder just how much longer you can hold on before it consumes you entirely. There's a sick kind of solidarity here, as everyone shares in this misery together. You're all in it, trapped in a floating tomb, riding the waves and praying for the dawn. The night drags on, the ship's movements becoming more erratic as the hours pass. You can feel the weight of the sea pushing against the ship, threatening to break her apart, and with it, any hope of relief. The quiet moments between the waves are filled with a tension so thick, you can almost taste it. And then, just when you think you might escape into sleep, the ship rolls again, sending a sickening lurch through your stomach. You realize that there's no escape. There's no room for comfort, no time for reprieve. The night will stretch on like this until it feels like your very soul is being tossed about on the waves, helpless and at the mercy of the sea. You lie there, eyes closed, gripping the sides of your cot as the ship's motions become more erratic. The sound of bodies retching and the smell of the sea are inescapable. You can only hold on, hoping that when the sun rises, you'll have survived the night. But something in you knows, this isn't the worst of it. The worst is yet to come. The captain doesn't walk so much as he prowls, cutting through the crew like a jagged wave tearing through calm water. There's something about him, something magnetic that you can't quite pin down, but it's there, simmering beneath the surface, a kind of raw power that you can feel from the moment he steps onto the deck. He doesn't need to say much. His presence alone is enough to bend the men around him, pulling them into his orbit with a single glance. And when he speaks, the words are sharp, direct, and laced with a bite that makes every sailor around you flinch, even if they've heard it 1,000 times. His voice carries like thunder rolling across the sea, a sound that commands attention and respect, even from men who've spent their lives in the unforgiving world of the ocean. You don't look him in the eye unless you want to feel the weight of his gaze press down on you like a vice. You're supposed to be a part of this crew, an equal in the eyes of the sea, but the captain stands apart. He's not one of you. He's above you. And that truth settles into your bones faster than any storm ever could. Every movement he makes is calculated, deliberate, as though he's always thinking 3 steps ahead, planning his next move before you even know what the game is. He stands at the wheel with an unshakable calm, one hand resting on the worn wood, the other sweeping back his damp, salt-ridden hair with a practiced ease. There's a scar on his neck, a mark of some battle long past, but it only adds to the air of danger that clings to him. The crew watches him like soldiers eyeing a warlord, and you can feel it too, the tension thickening with every step he takes, every command he barks. No one dares to speak out of turn. Not here, not with him on deck. You can't decide if it's his charisma that pulls you in, or his cruelty. Maybe it's both. He has this way of making you believe that, for just a second, things might actually go according to plan, that the storm you're headed into won't tear the ship apart, that the sea might just cooperate if you trust him enough. But you know that's a lie, don't you? You can feel the storm lurking, the uneasy way the ship creaks beneath your feet. But still, his presence makes you want to believe. His eyes flicker to the horizon, sharp as a hawk's, scanning for threats you can't see. And in the same breath, his gaze cuts across the deck, zeroing in on each crew member with unnerving precision. When he speaks to you, his words are like a sharp knife pressing against your throat, his voice quiet but heavy with meaning. It's a warning, always a warning, and you can feel the weight of it in your chest. A mistake, one wrong move, and you'll be just another forgotten sailor in a long line of men who've crossed him. It's impossible not to feel it, the weight of his anger simmering just below the surface. You've heard the stories of what happens when things go wrong, when men step out of line. The crew doesn't talk about it openly, not anymore, but there are whispers. The last sailor who tried to challenge him was thrown overboard, his body lost to the waves. You don't ask questions about the things you don't see. The crew knows better. In this world, the captain's word is law, and disobedience is punished with a cruelty that feels unnatural. He doesn't need to raise his voice to command respect. He doesn't need to threaten. His mere presence makes the air heavy, suffocating, until the only thing that matters is keeping him pleased. One wrong move, one misstep, and the punishment comes swiftly, brutally. There's no room for mistakes on this ship, not with him at the helm. You watch him as he strides across the deck, his boots clicking against the wooden planks like a countdown to something you can't yet understand. The other sailors don't look at him directly, their heads bent, eyes cast down, moving quickly to get out of his way. You follow their lead, unsure of what exactly to expect next, but knowing without a doubt that it's not going to be good. The captain's temper is a storm that doesn't need a reason to rage. It just does. And when it does, the ship shakes with it. You've seen men come back from his quarters with faces swollen, bruised, eyes wide with fear, the kind of fear that leaves a mark even when the bruises fade. You tell yourself that you're not like them, that you won't get caught in the captain's fury. But deep down, you know that no one is safe. Not here, not on this ship. The rules are simple. Obey or perish. You try not to think about it as you move back to your corner of the deck, eyes fixed firmly on the rolling sea, trying to drown out the steady rhythm of your heart. But you know that fear is always there, waiting, lingering in the back of your mind, like the constant roar of the waves crashing against the hull. Every decision, every word, every glance is a test. And the captain? He's the one who decides if you pass or fail. You're not here to live. You're here to survive, to stay out of his way. to make sure that you don't become just another casualty of his wrath. And as the ship lurches beneath you, as the wind picks up and the horizon begins to darken, you feel it. The storm is coming. But it's not the sea that scares you now. It's the man standing at the wheel, his eyes locked on the chaos ahead, ready to command the storm into submission. And you know that when it hits, you're at his mercy. You always will be. The bell rings. A sharp, unrelenting sound that cuts through your dreams like a knife. It doesn't matter that you've barely slept, that your body aches from yesterday's labor and your stomach churns with hunger. The bell rings, and you know it's time to crawl out of your bunk and get to work. You don't want to. Your back is stiff, your limbs sore, but there's no choice. The ship isn't going to sail itself, and the captain certainly isn't going to let you rest. You push yourself upright, your body protesting with every movement, your legs shaking from the effort. The air inside the ship's hold is damp and cold, clinging to your skin like a wet blanket. It smells of sweat, of sea salt, of rot. The blankets you sleep under are thin, soiled from countless days of sweat and grime, and the mattress beneath you is little more than a pile of ragged straw. There's no comfort here, no warmth, no softness. It's hard to remember a time when you slept in a real bed. You can barely remember what it was like to be truly clean. You stand up, your knees protesting the movement, and stumble towards the ladder that leads you up to the deck. Every step feels like it takes more effort than the last, but you force yourself to keep moving. You're not the only one awake. Everywhere you look, men are rising from their own filthy beds, dragging themselves out of the dark, damp corners of the ship's hold. There's no need for words. No one speaks. You don't need to. You know what's expected of you. You know that today is just like yesterday, and tomorrow will be the same. The air above deck is little better. Cold, salty, sharp with the sting of the sea. It's not the freedom you imagined when you first stepped onto this ship. No, this is work. This is grueling, back-breaking labor. The kind of work that wears you down until you don't have the strength to dream of anything beyond the next task, the next chore. The ropes are frayed from too many hands, gripping them day after day. The sails flap loudly in the wind, but they need to be adjusted, checked, repaired. The masts creak and groan as they strain under the weight of the sails. The ship is always in need of something. Maintenance, cleaning, repairs, and it's up to you to make sure it keeps moving, no matter how much your body begs for a moment of rest. The work is endless. You grab a rope and pull it tight, the fibers biting into your palms, leaving them raw and torn. The sea's motion pulls the ship in unpredictable directions, making every task harder. You try to focus on the rhythm of your movements, the constant tug of the rope in your hands, the familiar ache of your muscles as they work on autopilot. But it's hard to ignore the cold that seeps into your bones, the bitter wind that cuts through your clothes like knives. You don't have the luxury of warmth, of comfort. You have the ship, the wind, the salt water, and that's all. It's hard to remember what it was like to not be this tired, to not feel like your body is falling apart piece by piece. You scrape barnacles off the side of the ship, the blades scraping against the rough surface with a sound that makes your teeth grind. The barnacles are stubborn, clinging to the hull like they know they're the last thing standing between you and the sea. You feel your back protest with each scrape, your arms sore from holding the scraper at the right angle. But there's no time to slow down, no time to rest. If you don't scrape, the ship will start to rot, and if the ship rots, then you won't have anything left. And so, you keep scraping, you keep working. Hours pass in a haze of repetitive tasks, the same motions over and over, each one pushing you further into exhaustion. The sea keeps its rhythm, rolling beneath the ship as if nothing has changed, as if this is how the world has always been. You feel like you're caught in a never-ending loop, and no matter how many times you haul on a rope or scrape the barnacles, the work is never finished. It's like the sea itself is always taking, always pulling, always hungry. The wind whips your face raw, but you don't have time to care. You don't have time for anything. There's just the work. The endless, grueling work. You can hear the other men grumbling around you, their voices low and frustrated, but no one dares speak too loudly. No one dares complain too much. This is the life you've chosen after all. There's no room for weakness, no time for second thoughts. The ship doesn't stop for you, and neither do the waves. Eventually, the sun begins to set, and you can feel it in your bones. The day has passed, but you're no closer to the end. The work continues, the hours bleeding into each other, the ache in your body constant and unrelenting. The sound of ropes being pulled, sails being adjusted, waves crashing against the hull. This is your world now. You don't remember what it's like to be dry, to be warm, to rest. You don't remember what it was like to feel anything other than the ache in your muscles and the sting of salt water in your eyes. But there's no time to dwell on that, is there? There's just another rope to pull, another sail to adjust, and another barnacle to scrape. The work never stops. The grind never ends. And so, you push forward, just as you always do, just as you always will. The days drag on, stretching into an unending blur of salt water, sweat, and exhaustion. The work doesn't stop, and neither does the ship. The creaks of the wooden hull, the snapping of sails in the wind, those sounds have become your constant companions. But underneath the steady rhythm of life aboard this ship, something is shifting. You can feel it in the way the men are moving, in the way their eyes dart nervously, in the silence that falls over the deck when the captain is out of sight. No one dares speak too openly about it, but the whispers are growing louder, more frequent. Every glance exchanged between sailors feels loaded, like a shared secret no one dares to say out loud. It's a tension that hangs in the air like smoke, thick and choking, and it's starting to feel like the ship is becoming something else. A powder keg, one small spark away from exploding. At first, it's subtle. A passing comment here, a fleeting exchange there. One of the men tells you under his breath that the captain is a tyrant, that things can't keep going the way they have. You don't think much of it, dismissing it as nothing more than a moment of weakness, a passing complaint from a tired man. But it doesn't stop. Soon, another man joins in, muttering something similar as he hobbles past you, his gait unsteady from the constant rolling of the ship. His words are low, almost a whisper, but there's a quiet fire behind them. The word mutiny hangs in the air, unspoken but clear enough to make your heart skip a beat. You try to ignore it, try to convince yourself it's just idle chatter, a few men venting their frustrations. After all, the captain has been harsh, brutal even. But this is different. This feels like more than just discontent. One evening, after the day's work is done and the ship settles into the rhythm of the night, you hear the first real rumblings. You're standing near the foredeck, pretending to adjust a rope, when two men approach you, their faces tense, their eyes scanning the shadows like they're expecting someone to pounce. They glance at each other, then back at you. One of them, a man who's been here longer than you, leans in close enough to smell the stale sweat on his skin. His voice is barely above a whisper, but it's laced with a weight that sends a chill up your spine. "Things can't go on like this," he mutters, his gaze flickering toward the captain, who's standing at the wheel, looking out over the horizon. You know exactly what he means, but you don't answer. You don't trust yourself to say anything, not when your heart is racing in your chest, not when the ship feels like it's about to break apart, inside and out. The man looks at you, his face hard, his eyes burning with a quiet fury that you haven't seen in anyone else. "We can't let him keep doing this. We can't just keep taking it." His words hang there between you, heavy and undeniable. The captain's cruelty has reached a boiling point. The crew is starting to snap, starting to crack under the weight of his temper and his unrelenting commands. You've seen it, felt it yourself. Every time the captain's voice rises above the hum of the ship, you feel the tension tighten, like a noose around your neck. But you're not ready for this. You're not ready to take sides, not ready to risk everything for something you can't quite grasp. The whispers spread faster now, like wildfire, consuming everyone. You overhear more conversations, hushed voices drifting through the hallways and around the cargo hold, speaking of rebellion, of taking the ship for themselves. The words are becoming more insistent, more dangerous. No one's brave enough to speak openly yet, but the air feels thick with the promise of something more, something big, something that could change everything. The crew is restless, twitching like a dog on the edge of a fight. Some of them can barely hold it in anymore. There's only so much a man can take, and the captain is pushing them too far. Every day, he rides them harder, barking orders with that same cold, unfeeling rage. Every day, the crew's loyalty fractures just a little more, and you can feel it. You can feel the ship beginning to sway in ways that have nothing to do with the wind or the water. One night, you catch sight of the captain, his face red with fury as he storms across the deck, a vein throbbing in his temple. He shouts something to the men, his voice cutting through the night air like a blade, and you see it then. Something flickers in the eyes of the crew, something that's too dangerous to ignore. It's fear, yes, but it's also something else, something darker. It's a spark of defiance, a glimmer of something that's been building for days, for weeks, now finally breaking free. You turn away quickly, but it's too late. You've seen it. The ship is no longer just a vessel carrying men to foreign shores. It's a powder keg, and every passing day brings it closer to the explosion. You try to push the thought from your mind, focus on your duties, but it's impossible now. The tension is too palpable. You can't pretend that the ship is still just a ship, that the crew is still a team, that the captain is still a leader. The mutiny isn't just a whisper anymore. It's a reality, one you can almost taste on the back of your tongue, and soon, it won't matter how much you want to stay out of it. You'll have to pick a side, and by then, it might already be too late. It starts slowly, almost imperceptibly, like a dull ache that you convince yourself is nothing more than the weariness of life at sea. But soon enough, the ache turns into something worse. It gnaws at your gums, a sharp, persistent sting that no amount of swallowing seems to ease. At first, it's just discomfort, something you can push through. You ignore it. The work continues. The ship creaks under the strain of the waves, and you keep moving. But then your gums start to bleed. You don't even realize it at first, not until you feel the warmth of blood pooling in your mouth as you bite down on something. You spit it out, and there it is. Red, thick, and unmistakable. It takes a moment for the reality to sink in, but once it does, it doesn't let go. Scuvy. The word tastes like something sour on your tongue, the kind of bitter knowledge you wish you could avoid but can't. You've seen it happen to the men around you, heard the stories, how their teeth rot, how they weaken, how they fall apart from the inside out. And now, it's happening to you. You try to ignore it, try to convince yourself it's just the stress of the journey, the ship's bad food, the days without proper rest. But as the days pass, the sickness spreads through your body like wildfire, claiming your joints, your muscles, your very skin. It's not just your gums anymore. It's your whole body, slowly deteriorating under the weight of malnutrition and the ship's carelessness with provisions. The supply of fresh fruit has long been exhausted, and the dried meat and hardtack the crew survives on are no match for the cruel realities of the sea. You try to drink water, but it's brackish, barely fit to quench your thirst. The stale beer is weak, and the endless ale has become little more than a ritual of survival, not nutrition. Every time you take a gulp, you feel your stomach twist in protest, but it's the only thing left, the only thing that keeps you going, keeps the madness at bay. You realize, slowly, that this ship, this floating disaster, isn't just a place of work or death. It's a breeding ground for the sickness, a slow, painful killer that doesn't care who you are or what you've done to survive. The cold shivers come next. At first, they're just occasional tremors, a shiver down your spine when the wind picks up, when the night chill settles in, but it doesn't stop. The cold sinks deeper, crawling under your skin, taking root in your bones, and no matter how many layers you pile on, it's never enough. You wake in the middle of the night, teeth chattering, unable to stop shaking, as if your body is betraying you from the inside. You try to get some rest, to close your eyes and forget the gnawing pain in your mouth, the weakness in your legs, but sleep doesn't come. Instead, you lie there, feeling your body rot from within, wondering when it will finally claim you, wondering how much longer you can hold on. It's not just you, of course. The crew is falling apart, one by one, like pieces of a puzzle coming undone. The man beside you can barely lift his arms anymore, his hands swollen and pained from the endless labor. His skin has begun to peel, the once ruddy complexion fading to a sickly pallor that makes his eyes seem too large for his face. You see the same thing in the eyes of the others: fear, confusion, and resignation. They know what's coming, just as you do. The captain doesn't care. He can't. He's too busy fighting his own battles, too wrapped up in his own power to notice the sickness creeping through the crew. The supplies are dwindling, the food is rotting, and the doctor, if you can call him that, is as useless as the rest of the crew. He's got no real knowledge of medicine, only half-baked remedies that do nothing but make things worse. And so the scurvy spreads, silently, steadily, taking hold in your body like a disease you can't escape. Your teeth loosen in your gums, and you can't chew anymore, not without feeling the sharp pang of pain with every bite. You're reduced to swallowing whatever scraps you can manage, trying not to think about the fact that it might be your last meal, your last chance to take in anything that even resembles food. Your body grows weaker by the day, your skin becoming mottled, your breath shallow and ragged. The cold doesn't go away. It becomes a constant companion, an uninvited guest that never leaves. You want to scream, to curse the gods for bringing you here, but it's pointless. You know better. The ship is sinking, and it's taking all of you down with it. Some of the men don't last as long as others. They succumb faster, their bodies giving out from the strain, their weakened limbs unable to hold them up. One man is found lying on the deck, his face pale and drawn, his body a twisted mockery of what it once was. His gums have bled so much that his teeth have turned black, and his skin is dotted with bruises that come from within, like his blood has lost the will to flow properly. The crew stands over him in silence, their faces hard, their eyes blank. You wonder, for a moment, if that's what awaits you. The slow, steady decline into a body that no longer functions, a mind too fogged with pain to care. But you keep going. You don't have a choice. There's nothing left but to survive. To keep moving through the days as your body rots, as the sickness spreads. You keep your head down, focus on the next task, and try not to think about the fact that every day brings you closer to the inevitable. The sea is a slow killer, and so is this ship, and there's no way off now. You don't know what's worse, the fact that you're dying, or the fact that you know exactly how it will happen. The sickness starts quietly, a cough here, a fever there, easy to overlook at first, just the usual discomfort of life at sea. But soon enough, it spreads like wildfire, sweeping through the crew with a brutal efficiency, infecting every man with the same relentless force. It begins with a cough, low and dry, then worsens into something wetter, more violent, until you hear the hacking, the rasping that fills the air day and night. It's everywhere. It's in the holds, where the men sleep in cramped, filthy quarters. It's up on deck, where the fresh air does little to ease the oppressive weight of sickness hanging in the air. You can't escape it, Not from the moment you wake up to the moment you finally collapse in exhaustion at the end of the day. Everywhere you turn, someone is coughing, groaning, or puking. It's like a sickness that doesn't just affect the body, but seeps into the very soul of the ship. You start to recognize the sounds, the wet coughs, the desperate gasps for air, the hollow, defeated groans, and you realize that you're surrounded by nothing but the dying. There's no way to escape the suffocating stench of sickness that clings to everything, that invades your lungs with every breath you take. It smells of vomit, of sweat, of something rancid that you can't put a name to, but it's there, pressing in from all sides. The air is thick, as if the very atmosphere is coated in the filth of disease. You don't remember when it all started, but you know when it will end. It will end when there's nothing left, when every man aboard is either dead or too sick to move. The captain doesn't care. He can't afford to care. There's no doctor, no healer, no one with any real knowledge of medicine on this ship. Instead, the men are left to their own devices, relying on old wives' tales and the faint hope that somehow the sea will cure them, that maybe the sickness will simply pass if they pray hard enough. Prayer is all anyone offers these days, and even that feels like a futile gesture. You've heard about the superstitions, the idea that the sea demands something in exchange for life, that illness is the price you pay for sailing into its grasp. They say the gods are angry, that the ship's fate is sealed, and that there's no way to outrun the disease. They light candles, mutter prayers to gods they've never seen, hoping for some miracle that will save them. But the miracles never come. The sickness spreads, insidious and unrelenting, taking hold of the men one by one. The worst part? You can't do a damn thing about it. You're powerless. You watch as the crew's health deteriorates, and there's nothing you can do except stay out of their way. You try to keep yourself as clean as you can, though it doesn't matter. The disease doesn't care about cleanliness. It doesn't care about how hard you scrub your hands or how many times you try to avoid the sick men around you. It finds a way into you, too. You can feel it creeping through your body, just beneath your skin, like a dark shadow that moves silently, waiting for the right moment to strike. You try to stay strong, to push through it, but it's impossible. You're surrounded by men whose faces are drawn with fever, whose bodies are so weak they can barely stand. Their eyes are glazed over, the light fading from them with each passing hour. They stumble around the ship, clutching their sides, wincing at the pain in their joints, their faces flushed with infection. It's hard to look at them. It's hard to see what you're becoming, what the ship is becoming. The worst part is that no one really talks about it. There's nothing to say. The sickness is here. It's real, and it's taking over. The men who are still healthy, if you can call them that, are too scared to speak up, too scared to ask questions. The captain doesn't want to hear it, and there's no one left to help. You're all just waiting for it to run its course, hoping it doesn't claim you too. But deep down, you know it will. The ship is a breeding ground for disease. It's too cramped, too filthy, too isolated for anything to survive for long. There's nowhere to hide from it, no place to escape. The rats are just as sick as the men, scurrying through the dark, their beady eyes gleaming with hunger. But they, too, are infected. There's no safety here, no refuge. The only thing you can do is survive the next day, the next hour, praying that it doesn't take you just yet. You see one man stumble, his legs buckling beneath him, as he falls to the deck with a sickening thud. His skin is pale, his mouth slack with fever. Another man tries to help him up, but he can't. His own body is betraying him just as much. The air is thick with the sounds of labored breaths, the groaning, the shuffling, the desperate attempts to hold on to something, anything, that might help. But there's nothing. The ship is sinking, the crew falling apart one piece at a time, and you're trapped here, stuck in this nightmare, with no way out. The illness is consuming you, and all you can do is wait. Wait until it claims you, too. The ship is a death sentence, and you're powerless to stop it. The wind picks up first, a gentle nudge that seems harmless enough. You don't notice it at first. Not really, because it's nothing more than a cold breath on your neck. But soon, it turns into something more. The sails begin to snap. The ropes creak as they strain against the wind's growing power, and the ship tilts slightly to one side, as if unsure whether it wants to stay upright. You glance at the horizon, and that's when you see it. The sky is darkening, turning a menacing shade of gray, and the clouds are rolling in faster than you can blink. There's no warning. There's no time to prepare. The storm is coming, and you know it the way you know you're still alive, by the feeling of it, deep in your bones. The ship groans. A terrible, loud sound that seems to come from its very guts. As if it knows what's coming too, the men start shouting, their voices drowned out by the wind that howls like a beast, but you can't hear them clearly. All you hear is the roar of the sea and the constant creaking of the ship as she strains against the force of nature. The captain's voice cuts through the chaos, barking orders you can't fully make out. But you don't need to hear them. Everyone's already moving. There's no time to think, only to act. The first wave hits with such force that it knocks you off your feet. The deck tilts violently, and you find yourself scrambling to hold on to the nearest rope, your fingers slipping against the slick surface. You don't know which way is up, which way is down. The world is spinning, the wind howling, the ship groaning and creaking under the weight of the storm. Men are shouting, some screaming, some cursing, but the noise is drowned by the crashing waves that slam against the hull with a deafening roar. The ship bucks like a wild animal trying to throw you off, and you cling to the deck with every ounce of strength you have, your knuckles white from the effort. You're not sure how long you can hold on. You're not sure how long anyone can hold on. But you don't have a choice. You have to survive this. The storm isn't just a force of nature. It's an entity, something alive, something out of control, and it doesn't care about your struggle. It doesn't care that you've barely had any sleep, that your body is already exhausted from days of sickness and hard labor. It doesn't care that the men beside you are weak, barely able to stand, let alone fight against the fury of the sea. The waves rise up like mountains, towering over the ship, and for a moment, you wonder if this is how it ends, if you're going to be swallowed by the ocean, lost to the depths. But there's no time to think about that. The waves crash over the deck, drenching you in freezing water, and you gasp for air, choking on the salt, feeling the cold seep into your very bones. The wind howls louder now, a shrieking, violent sound that cuts through you like a blade, and you hear the men around you, their voices rising in terror as the storm drags them further into madness. They're no longer sailors. They're just men, just bodies trying to survive. You can feel the ship lurch beneath you, her timbers straining with each wave that crashes against her, and you know that she's starting to give in. The ship wasn't built for this. She wasn't built to withstand this kind of violence, and you can feel her slowly, steadily, starting to fall apart, piece by piece. The masts are shaking, the sails flapping wildly, and you wonder if the ropes will hold, if the ship will stay intact long enough for you to get through this. There's no way to know. You look around, seeing the men working furiously to secure the sails, to tie down ropes, to do anything they can to keep the ship from falling apart. But it's a losing battle. The storm isn't just attacking the ship. It's attacking your very will to survive, beating you down with every crashing wave, every gust of wind that slams into you. Your body aches from the cold, from the strain, but you force yourself to keep moving, to keep fighting against the storm, even though every part of you is screaming for you to stop, to give in. Some of the men aren't as strong as you. You see one of them, a young sailor who had barely been on the ship for a week, struggling to stay on his feet. The ship lurches again, and he's thrown against the side of the deck, slamming into the wooden planks with a sickening thud. He tries to stand, but his legs buckle under him, and then, just like that, He's gone, swept overboard by the force of the waves. You don't even have time to process it, to register the fact that another life has just been taken by the storm. There's no time for that. You have to survive. The wind picks up again, louder now, more vicious, and the rain comes, a steady, unrelenting downpour that mixes with the waves, making the ship slick with water and the men slick with fear. You've never been so terrified, so aware of how small you are, how fragile your life is against the storm. It doesn't care about you. It doesn't care about any of you. It's just nature, wild and untamed, and it's here to remind you that no matter how much you fight, you're not in control. You cling to the ropes, your body numb with cold, but you hold on because that's all you can do. You try to keep your balance, try to stay focused, but every wave that crashes over the deck makes you question whether you'll make it through. And then, for a moment, the storm lets up. The wind dies down, the waves become less violent, and the ship steadies itself. You think maybe, just maybe, it's over. But you know better than that. The calm before the storm is always the most dangerous part. You've survived this one, but the next is already on its way. And when it hits, you'll have to fight again, because that's all there is now. Survival. The storm has passed, but its echo remains, reverberating through the ship like a distant warning. The wind has calmed, the sea has settled, and the crew, in what's left of it, is battered and bruised, yet still alive. But the air is thick with something new now, something that wasn't there before the storm. It's a quiet murmur at first, barely noticeable amidst the wet clatter of the sails being pulled back into place and the endless groaning of the ship's battered frame. But it's there. The men move a little more quickly now, avoiding the captain's gaze when he passes, whispering under their breath when they think no one is listening. You hear bits of it, snippets of conversation that make your stomach turn. They're talking about him, the captain, the tyrant, the man whose orders have cost lives, whose cruelty has driven the crew to the brink. They're muttering about mutiny, about overthrowing him, about taking control of the ship for themselves. It's the kind of talk you've heard before in drunken whispers, but this time it's different. This time, the words aren't just words. There's something in them, something real, a promise of something bigger, something dangerous. The captain's brutality, his indifference to the suffering of the men, has pushed them to the edge. And now, there's a crack in the bond of loyalty that has held this crew together all this time. The ship no longer feels like a place of survival. It feels like a powder keg, ready to explode at any moment. You try to ignore it, try to push it out of your mind as you pull on ropes and haul heavy sails, but it's impossible. You can feel the tension in the air, thick and suffocating, the kind of tension that makes every move feel like it's being watched, every word said with the weight of 1,000 unspoken thoughts behind it. The men are no longer working together as a crew. They're moving in separate corners now, their eyes darting around, looking for signs of weakness, for an opening, for someone to make the first move. You hear one of the men talking to another, his voice low but full of anger. "He's not fit to lead us. We're dying under his rule," he says. And you know it's true. The captain has driven them too far. His decisions have cost too many lives. And now, after the storm, after the sickness, after everything, the men are done. They're done with him. You can't blame them. You've felt it too. The anger, the resentment, the desperation. But what comes next? What happens when the mutiny finally takes shape? You don't know. But you can feel the weight of it growing, pressing down on everyone aboard this ship. The captain walks through the deck with his usual arrogance, his eyes sharp and cruel, scanning for any sign of weakness, any sign of rebellion. His every move is calculated, as if he's already anticipating the challenge that's coming. He doesn't see it yet. Not the way the crew is looking at him, not the way the men are talking behind his back. But you do. You see it in the way they avoid his eyes, in the way their shoulders tense when he comes too close. There's a crack in the armor, and it's widening by the day. The loyalty that once bound this crew together, that once kept them in line despite the captain's cruelty, is starting to crumble. It's not just the men below deck now, the ones who are too sick or too broken to stand up for themselves. It's everyone. The first whispers have turned into open conversation, and now there's a palpable sense that something is about to snap. You feel it deep in your gut, a rising tide of fear and anticipation. What will happen when the men finally decide to act? Will you be caught in the middle? Will you join them? Or will you stay loyal to a man who has long since proven he doesn't care if you live or die? You try to stay out of it, to focus on your work, but it's hard. The mutiny is everywhere, even in the smallest glances, the shared moments of silence, the weight of too many unsaid words hanging in the air. It's like a storm waiting to happen, and no one knows when it will break. The captain's voice rings out again, barking orders at the men, his temper flaring as always, but now it feels different. The men don't flinch like they used to. They're no longer afraid of his rage. They're fed up, and the longer they stand there, taking it, the more it becomes clear. This isn't just about survival anymore. It's about taking back control, about reclaiming the ship from the man who's held it hostage for so long. You can feel the shift in the air, the shift in the men. There's no going back now. The loyalty that once kept them together has been shattered, piece by piece, by the captain's cruelty. And now it's a matter of time before the crew finally makes its move. You're trapped in the middle, caught between fear and survival, wondering which side you'll end up on when the dust settles. Will you be one of the ones who joins the rebellion, or will you stand by the captain, even though you know he doesn't deserve it? The questions swirl in your head, but the answers are elusive. One thing is clear. The bond that once held this crew together has been broken, and there's no telling how it will all end. But you know one thing for certain. Nothing will ever be the same again. It happens quickly, too quickly for anyone to truly prepare for it. The food stores have been dwindling for days now, the last of the salted meat gone, and the hardtack turning stale and difficult to swallow. The hunger gnaws at everyone, a constant presence that festers beneath every task, beneath every word spoken. You feel it in the hollow ache of your stomach, the weakness in your limbs, the way your mind grows fuzzy and slow from the lack of proper nourishment. You've heard the men talk about the food they've managed to hide away. Small caches of dried fish, scraps of bread tucked in corners, but you never thought it would come to this. Never thought it would escalate so fast. But then there's a scream. It's sharp, sudden, and cuts through the heavy air like a blade. You turn to see a man, one of the newer sailors, caught by the arms of two others, struggling against their grip, his face a mixture of fear and defiance. The captain is already there, his face set in a hard, cold expression that sends a shiver down your spine. You don't know exactly what's happening, but you don't need to. You know, the man has been caught stealing food. He's taken what little remains of the rations, trying to survive, trying to fill his empty stomach the only way he can. And now, he's about to pay the price. The captain steps forward, his boots making a dull thud on the wet deck as the sailors hold the thief still. There's no hesitation in his movements, no pause, just the cold, calculated fury of a man who's used to having his power unchecked, his authority unquestioned. The crew gathers around, their faces tense, their eyes fixed on the scene unfolding before them. No one speaks, no one moves. This isn't the first punishment they've seen. It's not even the worst. But the cruelty of it, the brutality, is still enough to make your blood run cold. The man on the ground pleads, his voice shaking with desperation, but the captain doesn't care. His hands are steady as he grabs the man by the collar, lifting him off the ground with an ease that belies his age and strength. The words that come from the captain's mouth are simple, but they hit hard, each one a hammer to the skull. "You think you can steal from me?" The voice is low, almost a growl, but but the weight of it makes the man cower. You think I won't make an example out of you? The sailors around you shift uneasily, the tension thick enough to choke on. They know what's coming. You know what's coming. There's no trial, no discussion, no mercy. The captain's word is law, and when you break it, there is no forgiveness. No one speaks. No one moves. The silence grows as the captain takes his knife from his belt, its blade gleaming in the dim light. The man tries to plead again, his words falling on deaf ears, and then, in one smooth motion, the captain drives the blade into his side. Deep, quick, efficient. The scream that follows is like nothing you've ever heard before. It's not a scream of defiance, not a cry for help. It's a sound born of raw terror. A primal, gut-wrenching scream that rips through the air, louder than the howling winds of the storm. The blood spills onto the deck, red against the weathered wood, staining it forever. The thief's body jerks, convulses in shock, but it's too late. The captain stands over him, the knife still in his hand, his face a mask of cold, emotionless command. There's no relief, no moment of grace. The man is already gone, his body twitching in the grip of death, and the captain wipes the blood off his blade with the same indifference he'd wipe away dirt. The crew watches in silence, their faces a mixture of fear and awe. Some avert their eyes, unwilling to look at the gruesome sight, but most don't look away. They're too scared to look away. They know what happens when you challenge the captain. They know the price of defiance now, and it's more than just death. It's the agony, the brutality, the coldness that fills the air and chokes the life out of any hope left on this cursed ship. No one speaks for a long time. The only sounds are the sloshing of water against the hull, the creak of the ship as it rocks in the waves, and the heavy, ragged breaths of the men around you. The captain doesn't say a word. He doesn't need to. The message is clear. Loyalty is not earned through respect or compassion. It's earned through fear, through pain, through submission. The broken body of the man on the deck is nothing but a reminder of that, a stark warning to anyone else who thinks about stepping out of line. And you, standing there, trembling in the shadows, feeling the weight of that silence, that brutality, know one thing for certain: nothing changes here. Not now, not ever. The captain is untouchable, his cruelty a force of nature, and the only thing you can do is survive it, hoping that you're never the next one who tests his limits. It starts with a glance, a look that lasts just a second longer than necessary, eyes meeting yours across the deck, a flicker of something unspoken, something desperate. You don't know what it is at first, just a feeling, a weight in the air, a sense that something is changing, but you feel it. You can't ignore it. A few days later, as the sun dips below the horizon, a group of men approaches you. They're not the ones you usually spend time with, not the ones who joke and laugh around the fire, but they're the ones who have started to change, who are growing quieter, more serious. They move like wolves, gathering in the shadows, their eyes darting nervously as they draw closer to you. You can hear the tension in their footsteps, the weight of their words before they even speak. You've seen it, haven't you? The man who speaks first is one of the older sailors, his face lined with a mixture of fear and something else, something darker. He's been here longer than you, long enough to know the ship's rhythm, long enough to see the cracks forming in the captain's rule. You don't say anything, but you nod, just slightly, as if to confirm that you've noticed what's been happening to the captain, how he's become more erratic, more unpredictable, how his rage seems to grow with each passing day, how he's begun to make decisions that don't make sense, sending men out in storms with barely enough supplies, punishing those who've spoken out against him with terrifying swiftness, how he's become the very thing he once promised to protect the crew from, a tyrant. "We've had enough," another man says, his voice low and urgent. He's younger, new to the ship, but his eyes are filled with the same anger you've seen in the others, We've all had enough. His hands shake as he speaks, but there's a fire in his words. A fire that's starting to burn inside of you too. They want to take the captain down, to overthrow him before he does even more damage to what's left of the crew. The plan is simple, they say. Quick. Clean. The captain is already losing his grip, slipping further and further into madness, and it's only a matter of time before the crew can't take it anymore. They're offering power, offering a new world, a fresh start, if you're willing to stand with them. For a moment, you feel the pull of it. You've seen what the captain can do. You've seen how his cruelty has broken the men, how the fear he instills in everyone makes every day on the ship a struggle just to stay sane. You've seen the men beaten down, broken, dying from scurvy and disease, all the while watching the captain sit in his quarters, untouched by the suffering, as if the pain of the men doesn't even reach him. You know that, somewhere deep down, you've been waiting for something like this. A chance to take back control, to make the ship what it was meant to be. A place of survival, a place where loyalty means something, where men help each other, not betray each other. But then the doubt creeps in. It's subtle, at first, just a whisper in the back of your mind, a nagging feeling that you can't ignore. These men, your fellow sailors, how well do you know them? How much do they really care about the crew? Or is this just about their own survival? The plan, their promises, they sound too easy, too clean. There's no mention of what happens afterward. No mention of the consequences if the captain fights back. No mention of the cost of what they're asking you to do. You think about the captain again, about his temper, about how he's changed. There's no doubt anymore that he's a tyrant. But what if there's more to him than just that? What if there's something deeper at play? What if you're making the same mistake by turning against him that you made when you first signed onto this ship? What if you're about to betray something bigger than the captain, something that could destroy everything you've ever known? The men stand in front of you, waiting, their eyes filled with a kind of desperate hope. But you can see the cracks in their resolve. You can see the fear in their eyes too, the same fear that has driven the captain mad. You know this isn't just about a plan anymore. It's about power. It's about the fear of losing control, of not having anything left to hold on to. The captain has shown them what it means to wield power without mercy, and now they're ready to do the same, to take that power for themselves. But is that really any better? You don't know. You can't know. The wind shifts, the ship creaks beneath you, and for a moment, everything feels suspended, caught in the space between choices, between the old world and the new. You're stuck between two worlds, the one you knew, the one where the captain ruled with an iron fist, and the one the men are promising, where power is up for grabs, where a new order can be built from the ashes of the old. It's tempting. God, it's tempting. But you know what's coming. You know that once the first step is taken, there's no going back. There's no undoing it. And you wonder for just a second if you've made the wrong choice, if the storm you've survived has only led you to something worse. You're in, the older man says, his voice low but firm, and for a moment, you think you're going to say yes. You think you're going to join them. But then, something stops you. Something deep inside, a voice, a feeling that you can't shake, holds you back. You say nothing. You just turn away. The decision is made. For now, at least. But the doubt is still there, gnawing at you, and you know it won't go away. The air feels thicker now, like it's holding its breath, waiting for something to break. Every creak of the ship, every snap of the sails in the wind, seems to carry a heavier weight than before. You try to ignore it, try to focus on the work, on keeping yourself busy, but it's impossible. You can feel the change in the crew, the shift in their movements, the way they no longer look you in the eye as they pass, the way their voices drop when they speak. The whispers are constant now, always just out of reach but impossible to ignore. You hear them late at night, in the shadows of the ship, when the others think they're alone. You see the men gathering in corners, speaking in hushed tones, their eyes darting around to make sure no one is watching. It's happening, you realize. The mutiny is no longer a dream, a distant hope for something better. It's real. The captain's madness has pushed them too far, and now they're preparing to do something about it. You've seen the signs before. Fingers slipping under cloaks to hide knives, tools being tucked away when they think no one is looking. You've caught glimpses of men making secret arrangements, meeting in dark corners, their voices low and urgent, their plans whispered like secrets too dangerous to be spoken aloud. They're preparing, and every moment you spend in their presence feels like a step closer to the end. The ship is no longer just a place of work. It's a powder keg, and the fuse is lit. It's only a matter of time before it explodes. You try to stay out of it, try to distance yourself, but it's impossible. The more you try to ignore it, the more you're pulled in. The tension is everywhere now, in every word spoken, every glance exchanged. It's in the very air you breathe. The captain is growing more unstable by the day. You see it in the way he storms through the ship, his eyes wild, his voice cracking with rage over the smallest things. The crew avoids him when they can, flinching at his every command, waiting for the next outburst. His temper is like a powder keg itself, a volatile mix of frustration, anger, and madness. And it's only getting worse. You've seen him snap at the men over nothing, his words sharp as daggers, his fists clenched like he's ready to strike at anyone who dares step out of line. His grip on the ship is slipping, and he knows it. That's why he's become more erratic, more violent. The cracks in his facade are showing, and he can feel them, feel the men slipping away from him. You catch sight of one of the men, the one who first came to you with the plan, and his eyes are filled with something you can't quite place. It's anticipation, maybe, or fear, but it's there, unmistakable in the way he walks, the way he glances around like he's expecting someone to leap out of the shadows. He's nervous, but not in the way a man is nervous about a storm or the threat of death. It's the kind of nervousness that comes before a fight, the kind that builds in your chest and tightens your throat, making it hard to breathe. You don't know what he's planning, but you know it's coming. You can feel it in the way the crew moves, in the way they're looking at each other, in the way they're preparing, inch by inch, for what's about to happen. The captain's voice cuts through the tension one day, sharp and demanding as he orders the men to gather, his tone dripping with an authority that no longer feels natural. The crew, hesitant but obedient, assembles in front of him, their faces a mixture of fear and something else, something harder, something you can't quite put your finger on. They're not afraid of him anymore, not like they were. And the captain can see it, can feel it, like a knife twisting in his gut. He stands there, glaring at them, his hands trembling slightly as he barks out orders, but his eyes are wide, darting around like a trapped animal, like he knows the end is near but doesn't know how to stop it. You can feel the weight of it now. The storm isn't just in the sky, it's in the hearts of the men around you. It's in the way they've started to look at each other, the glances that pass between them, the subtle shifts in their movements. It's in the way they've started to prepare, hiding weapons, making plans. You hear one of them, the older man, say something about how they're running out of time, that the captain is only going to get worse, that they can't wait any longer. And then it hits you. They're not just waiting for the right moment. They're waiting for the captain to slip up, for him to show a crack so big that they can tear him down, rip him apart before he rips them apart. It's not just a plan anymore. It's a countdown. The air is electric now, thick with anticipation and fear. You can feel it in the way the men move, the way they glance at you, almost as if they're waiting for you to make your choice. You know what's coming. You can't ignore it any longer. The captain is losing control, and when that happens, all bets are off. You're caught in the middle of it, trapped between two worlds, the old world, the world of the captain's brutal rule, and the new world, the one promised by the men who want to take him down. You don't know who to trust anymore. The crew is fractured, divided, and every moment that passes feels like it's bringing you closer to the point of no return. The fuse is lit, and the explosion is coming. You can't stop it. All you can do is hold your breath and wait. It happens in the dead of night, the kind of quiet that never feels like peace, only like the air holding its breath. You're half asleep, your body stiff from the constant motion of the ship and the strain of the days, when the first noise rips through the stillness. A shout, a sudden crash of wood, the unmistakable sound of something breaking. For a moment, you freeze, heart pounding in your chest as the world tilts, your body lurching awake. And then it comes again, louder this time, followed by the unmistakable sound of screams, not of pain, but of rage, raw and primal. You're out of your bunk before you can even think, feet slapping against the cold deck as you stumble toward the noise. You don't know what's happening. You can't make sense of it, but you feel it. A weight hanging over you, something dark and inevitable. The air is thick with tension, thick with the scent of fear, and as you turn the corner, you see it. The crew. Your crew is fighting, turning on each other with a violence that chills you to your bones. It's chaos, pure madness. The captain is on the deck, his face twisted in fury, his hands gripping a cutlass as he swings wildly at anyone who dares come near. He's not the man you once feared. This is a man who has lost everything. Control, sanity, his grip on what's real, and he's taking it out on anyone who stands in his path. You watch as one of the men, a sailor you've known for months, a man who once shared his meager rations with you during rough seas, lunges at the captain, a knife in his hand. The captain blocks the strike with his sword, but he's slow, too slow, and the force of the blow knocks him off balance. For a moment, the ship tilts, the deck buckling under the weight of the storm that isn't coming from the sky, but from within the men around you. The crew has finally had enough. The next few moments are a blur. Shouts echo across the deck, the clash of metal against metal, the sickening thud of bodies hitting the wood. You don't know who's on whose side anymore. You don't know if you're fighting to survive, or if you're just another body in the middle of a war that's not your own. The captain screams something, orders you to stop, to stand down, but it's too late. The mutiny is here, and there's no stopping it now. You feel the cold of the night air seep into your bones as the fight intensifies, as men scream and curse, as blood begins to spill across the deck. It's everywhere, dark red staining the wood beneath your feet, and you can taste it, the salt of it in the air, the smell of it filling your lungs with every breath. The crew, once a brotherhood, once a group of men bound by the sea, by a common goal, has fractured into chaos. No one trusts anyone now. You try to find your place, try to make sense of the madness, but it's impossible. The captain is fighting with everything he has left, swinging his sword with the desperation of a man who knows his time is running out. But the men are too many. His strength is waning, and his rage is blinding him. You watch as he turns, his eyes wide with panic as one of the men, someone you don't even know, just another body in the dark, slams into him, driving a knife into his side. The captain stumbles, his breath coming in ragged gasps, but he's not done yet. He tries to swing his sword again, but it's too late. The crew is on him now, pulling him down, holding him in place as the ship rocks beneath you all. The fight is over. For a moment, you stand there, frozen, your mind trying to catch up with what's happening. The crew has done it. They've overthrown him. But at what cost? You look around and see the faces of the men, their eyes wide with disbelief, with fear, with something darker. They've won, but it doesn't feel like a victory. It feels like a death sentence. The air is thick with the stench of blood, of sweat, of fear, and you realize that this is it. The moment you've been waiting for, the one that everyone promised would come, is here. The captain is down, his body twisted and broken, and the men are standing over him, panting, covered in blood, as if they've just woken from a nightmare. But they haven't. This is the new reality. The world you thought you knew is gone. The deck is slick with blood, bodies are scattered across it, and you're left standing in the middle of it all, unsure of what to do, unsure of who to trust anymore. You hear the men talking, their voices hushed now, but there's no joy in their words. There's no sense of triumph. The captain's dead, but the ship is still sailing, and the storm is still coming. Only now it's inside of you, inside every man who has ever called himself part of this crew. You realize, too late, that the mutiny wasn't just about taking down the captain. It was about taking something deeper from all of you. Your humanity, your connection to each other, the one thing that made you all more than just animals on a ship. Now, you're all the same. You're all fighting for survival, fighting for something that you're not even sure exists anymore. The ship creaks beneath you. The storm rages on in your chest, and you know one thing for sure: nothing will ever be the same again. The air is thick with tension, charged with the weight of what's to come. The men who once called him their captain are standing over him now, but the fight isn't over. It's only just begun. The captain, bloodied and broken from the mutiny, is gasping for breath, but there's something in his eyes, a spark of defiance, a fire that hasn't been completely extinguished. He's not done yet, not by a long shot. His grip on the sword is weak, but he still has it, still holds on to it with the desperation of a man who knows this will be the last fight of his life. The crew has him cornered, their faces hard with the certainty of what they've done. But there's no joy in it, no satisfaction, only the raw, pulsing need for survival, for control. The captain's voice rings out, low and threatening, his words filled with the venom of betrayal. You think you can replace me? You think you can control this ship? His hands shake, but the fury in his eyes burns bright, bright enough to make you take a step back, uncertain of what comes next. The men hesitate, just for a moment, their eyes flickering between each other, unsure. This wasn't supposed to happen. This wasn't part of the plan. But then the captain roars, a guttural sound of pain and rage, and it's like the floodgates open. He swings his sword, his movements wild, fueled by the last reserves of strength and madness he can muster, and for a moment, you think he might actually make it out of this alive. He's fast, faster than you expected, and his sword catches one of the men, slicing across his chest in a spray of blood. The man stumbles back, clutching at his wound, but he's not dead, not yet. It's the captain's last act of defiance, and it's enough to make the others hesitate. But hesitation doesn't last long. The crew, furious and bloodied, surges forward again, determined to finish what they've started. One of them grabs the captain from behind, pinning his arms to his sides, while another drives a dagger deep into his side. You hear the captain's cry, the sound of a man who has nothing left to lose. It's a sound you've never heard before, raw and tortured, and it echoes through the ship like a death knell. The men hold him down, not with fear now, but with certainty, as if they know the battle is won, that the captain's reign is finally over. But even as they drag him down, even as they stab and slash, the captain doesn't stop fighting. He doesn't stop. His blood spills across the deck, staining the wood beneath him. But his rage is unstoppable, like a storm crashing against the shore. You're standing there, caught in the middle of it all, unable to move. The men are on top of the captain, the sounds of his screams and their grunts filling the air, but your body is frozen, your mind reeling. Which side are you supposed to be on? Which side do you choose? The mutiny is happening all around you, but the violence, the brutality, it's too much to stomach. The ship, the crew, all of it has been torn apart, shredded in the course of a single night. You don't know who's right anymore. You don't know what you're fighting for. You hear a shout, and you turn just in time to see another man, the one you've known the longest, stumble toward you, a wild look in his eyes. He's holding a sword, his face twisted with something between fear and excitement. "We have to finish it," he says, his voice barely more than a hiss. "We have to kill him, or he'll come back for us." There's a madness in his words, and in that moment, you see it. The desperation, the hunger for power that has consumed them all. The captain isn't just fighting for his life anymore. He's fighting for control, for the one thing he's clung to for so long. But the men are fighting for something else. They're fighting for freedom, for revenge, for something they've never had, a future without fear. But the brutality of it, the violence, the way the captain's blood stains the deck, it's no longer about survival. It's about power. And power, you realize, is an ugly thing. The captain is no longer the man he once was. He's just a shadow of that man, a desperate, broken shell trying to hold on to something that doesn't exist anymore. And the crew, your brothers in arms, are no better. They're just as hungry, just as desperate, just as willing to destroy everything in their path to get what they want. The captain's screams fade, replaced by the sound of his final breath, a wheezing, ragged sound that dies away as the men step back, bloodied and breathing hard, their faces lit with the harsh light of victory. You stand there, your body still frozen, the weight of what's just happened settling into your bones. The ship is still rocking beneath your feet, but it doesn't feel like home anymore. There's no relief, no satisfaction, just silence, heavy and suffocating. You've witnessed the end of something, but you're not sure what that something was. The crew is victorious, but at what cost? The captain is dead, but the ship feels emptier than it ever did before. And as you stand there, surrounded by men you no longer recognize, you know one thing for certain. Survival has never felt so much like defeat. The captain is dead, his body sprawled across the deck, a lifeless symbol of everything that's gone wrong. The men stand around him, their faces drained of triumph, their eyes hollow with the weight of what they've done. The blood still stains the wood beneath their feet, thick and sticky, clinging to the ship like a reminder of the violence that's just torn through this place. But there's no celebration, no joy. The mutiny is over, but its consequences hang in the air like a suffocating fog. The ship feels different now, as though it's already sinking, not just in the water, but in the hearts of every man who was a part of this. The captain's reign is over, but the promise of a new world, of freedom and control, seems as distant as the horizon, as empty as the hull of the ship, now that the fight is done. The crew, once a tightly knit unit bound by necessity, is now fractured, broken into pieces that will never fit together again. The men who led the charge stand together, but even they seem unsure, glancing at each other with uncertainty, as if they're wondering who's going to step up next, who's going to take the reins of this doomed ship. They're not leaders. They never were. They were just men who wanted to survive, who saw a chance for something better and took it, only to find that nothing comes without a cost. They wanted freedom, but they've only bought themselves more chains, heavier ones, the kind that come from knowing you can't go back, knowing the ship you're on is sinking and there's nowhere left to run. The silence is unbearable. No one speaks. No one moves. The only sound is the creak of the ship as it rocks on the waves, the distant crash of water against the hull. It's a sound you've heard 1,000 times, but today, it feels different. It feels like the ship itself is mourning. The air is thick with the smell of blood, of sweat, of death, and you feel the weight of it pressing down on you, suffocating you. The ship has been broken. The crew has been broken. And the dream, the one that seemed so close when you first stepped on board, the one that promised adventure and freedom, is nothing more than dust in your hands, slipping through your fingers with every passing moment. You look around at the faces of the men, and it hits you. Their eyes are empty. There's no spark left in them. They've seen too much, felt too much. The brutality of what they've done is written on their faces, and there's no denying it. They've murdered the captain, yes, but they've also murdered something inside themselves. The trust is gone. The brotherhood is gone. There's no camaraderie anymore, no unity. They're just survivors, and survival isn't the same as living. A few of the men begin to move, their actions mechanical, as though they're going through the motions of living without really being alive. They start to clean up, to remove the body of the captain, but the task feels pointless. The ship is still sinking, slowly, silently, and no amount of work is going to stop it. The food stores are low, the ship is damaged beyond repair, and the men, well, they're a broken bunch now, drifting between fear, regret, and a hollow sense of victory that's no more fulfilling than the empty bottles of rum that some of them start passing around. It's almost laughable, in a way. The captain is gone, but what has changed? Nothing. The ship is still sinking, and now it's just a matter of time before the water takes it all down, takes everyone with it. You hear the clink of metal as one of the men tries to sharpen his sword, but the sound is dull, the scrape against steel sounding more like a funeral dirge than the sharpening of a weapon. Another man stands at the edge of the ship, staring out at the horizon, his face a mask of exhaustion and hopelessness. He doesn't say anything, doesn't move. He's just waiting. Waiting for what? You don't know. The men who still have strength left to fight are no longer fighting for a better life. They're just fighting to keep themselves from sinking further into the abyss, fighting to hold on to something, anything, before it all falls apart completely. The ship groans, a low, mournful sound that seems to echo through your bones. You can feel it now. The end, creeping closer, like the tide rising against you. There's no escape, no salvation. The ship is broken. The crew is broken, and the dream of something better is as shattered as the mast that now lays in pieces across the deck. You look down at the captain's body, the lifeless form that started this whole thing, and you realize something. This isn't a victory. It never was. The captain is dead, but the battle has taken everything from you, from all of you. The ship, the men, the dreams, everything is sinking. The captain may have been the one who led you to this point, but in the end, you realize it was never about him. It was always about something much bigger, the death of hope, the slow, inevitable decay of something that was never meant to survive. And as you stand there, watching the men shuffle about, their faces marked by the cost of survival, you know this. There's no coming back from this. The ship is sinking, and so are you. The captain is dead, and with him, the last shred of authority that held this ship together. The crew stands around in the aftermath, their faces tired and hollow, the reality of what's happened sinking in with each passing hour. The ship is adrift, but it's not just the wind or the current that's pulling it. It's something far worse, the lack of direction, the absence of leadership. The mutiny should have been the beginning of a new chapter, but all it's done is rip the ship open, leaving a gaping wound that no one seems capable of stitching shut. There's no one to lead now, no one to take control of the wreckage that's left. Everyone is staring at each other, wondering who's going to step up, who's going to be the one to fill the gaping hole where the captain once stood. But no one speaks. There's no agreement, no clear choice, just a silence so thick it feels like it could suffocate you if you stand in it too long. The days that follow are a blur. The crew shuffles from task to task, each one moving with the mechanical precision of a body that no longer has a soul. The sails are patched, the ropes pulled, but there's no fire, no urgency in the work. It's just something to do to pass the time, something to keep them from facing the fact that they've lost everything. There's no unity, no purpose beyond survival. The men who once rallied behind the captain, even with his cruelty and madness, now look to each other with distrust. waiting for someone to make the first move, waiting for someone to make the hard decisions. But no one does. The sense of brotherhood that once bound them together is gone, replaced with suspicion, with a quiet kind of desperation that hangs in the air like a storm cloud, heavy and threatening. It's not just the men who are broken. The ship itself feels like it's on the verge of collapse. The wood groans, the sails flap weakly in the wind, and the hull creaks as if it too is just waiting for the end. You can feel it in the air, the weight of what's been lost. The mutiny didn't just kill the captain, it killed something deeper. It killed the idea of a crew, of men working together to survive, to push forward in the face of hardship. Now, there's just a ship full of broken men, each one more focused on his own survival than on the survival of the group. The hunger gnaws at everyone's stomach, but it's not just for food. It's a hunger for something more, something they don't know how to name, but can feel rising in the pit of their chests. Power, control, a sense of order, but none of them can take it. None of them know how. The days blur into each other, and still, no one speaks of the future. No one speaks of what happens when the storm passes, when the ship reaches the shore. The murmurs of a leader, someone to take charge, are stifled before they can even form into words. It's like everyone is waiting for someone else to make the decision, but no one does. Every man is a captain now, and no man is. And in that chaos, in that vacuum, something dark starts to fester. You see it in the eyes of the men around you, the flicker of doubt, the quiet anger building beneath the surface, and you know it won't be long before that frustration boils over. There's no plan, no vision, just the cold, creeping realization that the dream of a new life, of a fresh start, was never real. It was always just an illusion, a fantasy built on the backs of lies, and now the truth is here. And it's ugly. The food is running low. But it's not just the stomachs of the men that are empty. It's their souls. The despair is palpable now, rising like a fog over the ship, choking the life out of everything it touches. There's no laughter, no stories shared around the fire, no lightness in the air. Just men too tired to fight and too broken to care. No one talks about the future anymore, and when they do, it's not with hope. It's with resignation, as if they all know deep down that the ship will sink, that it's already sinking, and there's nothing to do but watch it happen. The mutiny, the overthrow, the promises of a better life, none of it has amounted to anything. The captain is dead, but the ship feels more lost now than ever before. The crew is fractured, and no one knows how to put it back together. The dream of something better, something more, is gone. It's a lie that dies with the last breath of the captain, and now all that's left is a sinking ship, and men too afraid to admit they've already lost. The wind picks up, but it's no comfort. It only pushes the ship farther into the open water, farther into the unknown. No one cheers, no one rallies behind it. There's no feeling of adventure, no sense of discovery, just the cold, indifferent sea stretching out endlessly before them, a mirror of the emptiness that fills every man aboard. You look at the men around you, the same faces you've shared this nightmare with for what feels like years, and you wonder how many of them are still really here, still really fighting. Maybe they're not. Maybe no one is anymore. The captain is dead, but the ship, this damn ship, isn't, and neither are you. Not really. Not unless someone steps up. But that's not going to happen, is it? Not now. Not when there's nothing left but broken men and a ship slowly sinking into the horizon. The ship is no longer a place of men working together. Now it's a battleground, not just against the sea, but against each other. The captain is gone, but in his wake, something far more insidious has taken root. No one's sure who's in charge anymore. No one's sure who's leading the ship toward its next disaster, and that uncertainty hangs over everyone like a storm cloud waiting to burst. What was supposed to be a new beginning has only fractured the crew into smaller factions, each one vying for control of what little is left. The unity that existed under the captain, however twisted it was, has dissolved, replaced by something darker. Each man, once a part of the collective, now sees himself as a potential ruler of this wreck of a ship. There's no plan. There's no vision. Only the brutal need to survive and the hunger for power. And somewhere in the middle of it, you're stuck. You see it in the way they move, the way they eye each other when they think no one's looking. The crew is no longer a team. It's a collection of opportunists, of men who see the collapse as an opportunity to rise, to be the ones who control what little is left of this doomed vessel. The whispers grow louder now. They're not about the sea or the storms anymore. They're about who's next, who should take the helm, who deserves to lead. The man who was once the most vocal about the mutiny, the one who first came to you with promises of power and freedom, is now rallying others to his side, speaking in quiet, urgent tones. His eyes are wide, feverish, filled with the same kind of desperation you saw in the captain before his fall. He moves like a man on a mission, like he believes the throne of this ship is his by right, like he can step into the captain's boots without hesitation. He doesn't realize that the same thing that took the captain down will take him down too. The thirst for power has a way of turning those who seek it into the very thing they hate. But he's not the only one. There's another faction, led by a man who never spoke up during the mutiny, a man who kept to the shadows, who kept his distance, but now steps forward with quiet confidence. His hands are steady, his voice calm as he gathers the men who were once loyal to the captain, those who still believe in something resembling order, who don't trust the others to lead them into the chaos that's building. They speak in hushed tones, discussing strategy, plotting out moves, as if they can still salvage what's left of the crew. But they're just as lost as the others. There's no real unity, no true purpose. There's only the battle for what little control can be wrangled from this sinking ship. The more you watch, the more you realize the truth. They're all just fighting for scraps now. The men who once spoke of a better life, of a new world, now only speak of who can wield a blade the best, who can make the others bend the knee first. The alliances shift like sand beneath your feet, too quick to keep up with, too unpredictable to understand. One moment, a man is standing with one group. The next, he's whispering to the other. The loyalty that once seemed like a constant, a binding force that held this crew together, is now meaningless. The men are playing a game, but they're not playing it for survival anymore. They're playing for control, for power, for a chance to be the ones to decide who lives and who dies. The ship, the sea, the storms, it's all secondary now. The fight isn't about getting home. It's about who gets to make the rules. And you, caught somewhere in between, watching it all unfold, unsure of where you stand, are left feeling the weight of the fragmentation. The ship is no longer a place where you know what's coming next, where you know who to follow, who to trust. You feel like a stranger on a ship you thought you knew, like a ghost among men who no longer see each other as brothers, but as rivals, as enemies. The men you once stood with are now threats, and the man you once feared is now just another fallen figure in the wake of this madness. There's no unity anymore, no structure, just a ship full of men who have realized that the real enemy isn't the captain, it's each other. You can't help but think, as you watch this struggle unfold, how little it's changed. The captain is dead, but the hunger for control is still alive. It's still festering in the hearts of the men who once followed him, who now follow their own selfish desires. They've learned nothing. They've replaced one tyrant with another. Only this time, there's no clear tyrant to topple. The ship rocks beneath your feet. The wind howls in the distance. And for a moment, you feel the weight of the inevitability pressing down on you. There's no escape from this. No one can win. They're all sinking together. And in the end, what will it matter? The ship will still be lost, the crew will still be broken, and nothing will change except who's left standing when the waves finally swallow them whole. The supplies are running out, and with it, any semblance of civility aboard the ship. It starts slow. Small arguments over the last ration of bread, quiet grumblings as the men reach for the last of the water. But it builds quickly. Days stretch into weeks with no sign of land, and the food that once seemed plentiful now feels like a memory. The sea is no longer a highway to freedom. It's a prison, a vast, empty space that mocks every man on board. The smell of sweat and salt lingers in the air, mingling with the bitter stench of hunger and desperation. The last of the rations has been divided unevenly, scraps here and there, but it's no longer about fairness. It's about survival. And survival is a brutal thing. The men are changing, slowly at first, but you can see it in their eyes, in the way they speak to each other, in the way they move. They're becoming animals, driven by the most basic of instincts. You feel it too, the gnawing hunger that digs deep into your bones, the cold, relentless ache that nothing can satisfy. The ship has become a sinking vessel of need, and it's impossible to ignore. There's no leadership anymore. No one to keep the peace. No one to make the decisions. The mutiny has taken care of that, leaving the ship in chaos. The factions are still there, still fighting for control, but it's all meaningless now. Nothing matters but the food, the water, the small supplies that are left. It's all anyone can think about. It's all anyone can see. And so the men begin to turn on each other, their bonds broken, their trust shattered. The desperation is like a disease, spreading through the crew, leaving behind only the hollow, desperate shells of men who will do anything to survive. It starts with the quiet thefts. You hear it late at night, a rustle of fabric, the faintest creak of a footstep. Someone's taken a tin of beans, a bottle of rum, a few dried fish. At first, it's just a few men slipping into the shadows to take what they can, and you think nothing of it. Everyone's hungry. Everyone's desperate. But then it spreads. The thefts become more brazen, more open, and no one says anything. No one challenges it because no one can afford to. The thought of food, of real food, becomes too much to ignore. The men who still have the strength to fight are the ones who start taking what's left. And the others, those who are weaker, those who've been sickened by the lack of proper nourishment, they either turn a blind eye or do the same. It's every man for himself now. No one trusts anyone, and the ship becomes a battleground, not for power, but for scraps. It doesn't take long before the fighting begins. One of the men, weak from hunger, tries to take what another man has hoarded. The struggle is brief, but brutal. The first punch is thrown, and then it's a mess of arms and legs, shouting and cursing as the men fight over the last of the food. Someone pulls a knife, and suddenly, it's not just a fight anymore. It's a fight for life, for the very thing that has kept them all going for as long as they've lasted. And in that moment, you realize that the ship is no longer a place of work, of duty, of survival. It's become a place of predators, of men driven by nothing more than the instinct to feed, to live, to cling to whatever scraps of dignity they can salvage from the wreckage. The men who try to intervene are no better. They're as desperate as the others, their eyes filled with the same hunger, the same frantic need. They start grabbing for anything they can find. Rations, water, anything that will fill the gnawing emptiness inside them. The weak are trampled. The sick are ignored. It doesn't matter anymore. The mutiny has already set them on this path, and now there's no going back. The ship creaks beneath the weight of it all, the weight of the men fighting over what's left. The violence is real, but it's not just about food. It's about power, about dominance, about who gets to live when there's nothing left to live for. You find yourself standing at the edge of it all, watching the madness unfold around you. You're hungry too. your body aching with the same empty longing that fills the others, but you can't bring yourself to fight. Not yet. You're torn between the part of you that wants to reach for the food, that wants to claim your place in this savage new world, and the part of you that wants to hold on to something, anything, that isn't this. But it's slipping away, that part of you. It's fading with each passing day, each stolen ration, each fight that erupts over what's left. You can feel yourself becoming like them, like the others, desperate, lost, no longer human, just a body fighting to survive. The night wears on, and the ship continues to sink into this new darkness. The fight's slow, but only because there's nothing left to fight for. The food has run out. The water has run out. And now, the men just sit, staring at the empty barrels, the dry sacks, the remnants of what once sustained them. They're hollow-eyed, their faces gaunt, their bodies no more than skin and bone. No one speaks anymore. No one moves. The hunger is too overwhelming, too consuming, and it has taken everything. The men you once knew, the ones who fought with you, are gone now, replaced by something else, something harder, something animal. And in the silence, the only thing that remains is the constant ache, the gnawing, unrelenting need for more. More food, more water, more life. But there is nothing. Nothing but the ship and the sea and the slow, inevitable pull of death. It starts with a whisper in the dark, the kind of idea that no one dares speak aloud at first. But once it's said, it lingers, heavy in the air. The men gather in the shadows below deck, their faces gaunt, eyes hollow from hunger and exhaustion. There's a flicker of something, a spark in the air, when one of them finally dares to suggest it. The words come out hoarse, weak, but they are enough to send a ripple through the crew. What if we row to the land? There's a small landmass we passed days ago, just beyond the horizon. We might not make it, but it's our best shot. The silence that follows is deafening. No one moves. No one breathes. You can feel the weight of the suggestion settling over everyone like a thick fog. The ship is dying. The men are dying. But the thought of land, of escape, of anything other than this slow, suffocating death, well, it makes something stir inside you. Something dangerous. Something desperate. The idea spreads like wildfire, and within minutes, it's all anyone can talk about. The ones who are still strong enough to speak are already arguing, already dissecting the plan with the kind of fevered intensity you've only seen in men who are too far gone to care about the consequences. Some say it's impossible. The boat is damaged, the oars are broken, the sea is relentless. What good is rowing when there's nothing to guide you but the uncertain, ever-shifting horizon? But others counter, their voices trembling with something like hope. No, something like fear, but maybe that's the same thing now. They argue that it's better than staying, better than waiting to die aboard a ship that has nothing left to give. They say they can fix the boat, salvage what they can from the wreckage of the ship, and make it work. They say they can make it, but the words ring hollow, even to them. No one has the energy to believe fully anymore. No one can see past the desperation, the gnawing doubt that's taken root in everyone's chest. The plan takes shape quickly, too quickly. Men scramble for the last of the ropes, the few remaining tools, anything that could make the difference between survival and certain death. They gather what little is left, tie what they can, and make hasty preparations. You're caught up in it too, moving almost without thinking, your hands trembling as you help, as you try to convince yourself that this could work, that maybe, just maybe, there is something beyond this ship, beyond this endless stretch of water, beyond the sight of faces that are starting to blur together, a reminder of who you were before all of this. But as the minutes pass, as the boat takes shape, and the men start arguing over who will row, who will steer, a knot of unease begins to form in your stomach. This isn't a plan, it's a gamble, a roll of the dice that no one can control. You stare out at the water, your eyes drawn to the horizon, to the line where the sky meets the sea. But it all looks the same. There's no promise of land there, no guarantee of safety, just the endless stretch of water, mocking you with its emptiness. The wind picks up, and you can feel the cold bite of it against your skin, a reminder that even if you do manage to row, to reach that distant land, the ocean will claim you just as easily as it claimed the ship. The doubt creeps in, slow and insidious. You glance at the men around you, some of them already pushing toward the boat, already preparing for what comes next, their faces set with the grim determination of men who have nothing left to lose. But you're not so sure. You watch their movements, the way their hands shake as they gather supplies, the way they avoid each other's eyes, and you wonder if they're as scared as you are, if they're as unsure, as broken, or if they're just pretending that they still believe in something, pretending that this is going to be the escape they've been waiting for. You stand there, the weight of the decision pressing down on you. To leave, to row toward that land you can barely see in the distance, means leaving everything behind, everything you've known, everything you've fought for. It means risking your life for a chance, for a hope that's no more real than the myths you told yourself before boarding this cursed ship. But what's left? What's left but death? But the slow, painful end that awaits you if you stay. The hunger gnaws at you. The men are broken. The ship is broken. This could be your last chance. Still, there's a hesitation in you, a flicker of reason that makes you pause. You want to believe. You want to think that there's still something worth fighting for, that there's hope beyond the horizon. But the truth is, staring you in the face now, you know what's coming, and you wonder if it's worth the risk. You wonder if it's worth putting your life in the hands of men who are just as desperate as you are, who are just as lost. And yet, the pull is there, the weight of the decision pressing against your chest. The boat is ready now. The men are climbing in, their faces set, their eyes hollow but determined. You're one of them now. You have no choice but to climb aboard, to face whatever fate awaits you, whatever chance there is. The wind howls in your ears, and as you take your seat, you look around at the men, at the broken remnants of what was once a crew. It's not a victory. It's not even a plan. It's just a desperate escape, a chance to escape the thing that has already claimed so many of you. You push off, and as the boat begins to drift, the only thing that's certain is this: there's no turning back. The ship creaks under the weight of its last breaths, the wood groaning as though it too knows what's coming. The men are gathered in groups, preparing for what feels like an impossible escape, as if the land beyond the horizon could really be a lifeline. But you know the truth. This is no longer a plan. It's a final decision, one that carries the sting of everything you're about to leave behind. The air is thick with tension, the kind that builds in your chest like a storm. You glance around at the men, their faces drawn and pale, their hands trembling as they load what little they've salvaged into the makeshift boat. Some look resolute, determined even, but others are more uncertain, their eyes shifting between the boat and the empty space on the deck where the captain once stood, a space now as hollow as the promises of safety that led you here. The decision is final. There's no going back. The men who remain aboard the ship, the ones who were never part of the mutiny or too weak to row, are now enemies in your eyes. There's no room for sentimentality anymore. You've fought for survival long enough, and now survival requires leaving everything behind. The ship is no longer a refuge. It's a prison, a slow, rotting cage that's already claimed more of you than you care to admit. The sea stretches endlessly before you, the vast emptiness mocking you as you board the boat. The wind tugs at your clothes, and in the distance, you think you see land, small, barely a shadow on the horizon. But you know better than to trust your eyes now. Hope has a way of distorting reality, especially when you're this far gone. The boat is small, flimsy. It creaks under the weight of the men who pile into it, and for a moment, you wonder if it will hold. The thought flickers through your mind. If this breaks apart, if it capsizes, then there's nothing. You'll drown, just like you would have on the ship, but the fear doesn't last long. It's replaced by something far darker: indifference. You've already lost too much. You've already given up too much. The captain's body lies back on the deck, an afterthought in the grand scheme of things, but the sight of him, bloody and broken, burns in your mind. This is it. This is the moment when everything changes, when there's no more turning back, when you make the decision to flee, and all that's left is to see it through to the end, no matter what comes. You try not to think about the crew left behind. Some of them were once your comrades, men you fought alongside in the early days, before everything fell apart. You've known them, trusted them, but that was before the hunger, before the violence, before the realization that there was no rescue, no salvation. Now, the ship feels like a distant memory, a place where you no longer belong. There's no honor in dying aboard it. There's no honor in waiting for it to sink beneath the waves. The decision to flee feels like the only choice left, even if it means leaving the rest behind, even if it means abandoning the mutineers, the men who once stood by you. The ship will soon be gone, sinking under its own weight, and with it, any chance at redemption. The land, that speck of hope on the horizon, is all that's left, and you have no illusions about it. You know the chances of survival are slim, that the land could be barren, the journey treacherous, that even if you make it to shore, you might not be able to survive what's waiting for you there. But it's the only chance. You shove those thoughts aside and grip the oar. The others are already rowing, their strokes synchronized in a desperate attempt to get the boat moving, to escape before the ship collapses completely. The water splashes against the side, and for a moment, the sound is the only thing you can hear. The rhythm of the waves crashing against the hull, the frantic paddling, and the distant murmur of the men still left on the ship. You don't look back. You can't afford to. Not now. The land is all that matters. The hope of something, anything, that will pull you from this nightmare and give you something resembling life again. But even as you row, even as you put distance between yourself and the ship, the fear starts to creep back in, gnawing at you like the hunger that still lingers in your gut. The men in the boat are silent now, each of them lost in their own thoughts, the uncertainty of what lies ahead settling on them like a heavy cloak. There's no talk of plans, no bravado, no laughter. The sea, vast and unfeeling, stretches out endlessly before you, and the land that once seemed so close now feels as distant as the stars. The silence is suffocating, and still, you row. Each stroke is a fight against the fatigue that threatens to consume you. You wonder if you're stronger than you think, or if the fear has already drained you of the will to go on. But then the ship disappears from view, swallowed by the horizon, and you realize that there's no going back. The decision is final. It was made the moment you left the ship behind. There's no guarantee of survival. There's no promise of safety. All that's left is the raw, unrelenting need to survive, to make it to that distant land, to find something that can prove that this wasn't just a desperate, hopeless escape. But in your heart, you know, it's a gamble, and you've already chosen to risk it all. The small boat lurches beneath you, rocking violently as the wind howls and the waves crash against its fragile frame. It feels as though the sea itself is a living thing, a beast that rages against your every movement, determined to swallow you whole. The storm that tore apart the ship has followed you, its fury unleashed, unrelenting. You can taste the salt in the air, thick and heavy, like the ocean itself is inside you, choking you with every breath. The wind tears at your skin, stinging like the lash of a whip, and you wonder if you'll ever see the shore, or if this endless expanse of water will be your tomb. The small boat seems laughable in comparison to the vast, dark ocean surrounding you. It's barely big enough for the men aboard, barely strong enough to withstand the onslaught of nature that's crashing down on it. Yet here you are, fighting, paddling with whatever strength you have left, as the sea tries to rip you apart. There's no safety in this, no sanctuary. The world is just you and the water, a brutal, unforgiving stretch of ocean that doesn't care if you live or die. The storm still rages overhead, the clouds heavy and dark, swirling above like a never-ending tide of anger. The boat creaks, straining against the pressure of the waves that rise higher than you can comprehend, towering over you like monstrous walls of water. You're tossed from side to side, your grip on the oar slipping as the waves hit. Every time you think the boat might capsize, you feel your heart stop. A terror so raw it feels like it's tearing your insides apart. But it doesn't capsize. Not yet. Instead, it rolls and pitches with the storm, a tiny speck of human effort caught in the fury of nature, barely staying afloat. You've never felt more powerless in your life. The men beside you are no better off. Their faces are twisted with fear, their hands shaking as they pull on the oars, but it's clear they're just as afraid as you are. Their eyes are wide, desperate, each one looking for something, some sign, some hope that this isn't the end. But there is no sign. There is no help. There's just the boat, the wind, and the water. No one speaks. There's nothing to say. The storm is louder than words. It howls in your ears, a deafening roar that fills your mind, drowning out everything else. You can't see the stars. You can't see anything beyond the blackness of the sky and the frothing, churning sea. The waves keep coming, crashing over the sides of the boat, soaking you, freezing you, making every motion feel like a struggle against the inevitable. The cold bites at your skin, and the water sloshes over you, soaking through your clothes and numbing your bones. Every minute feels like an hour. The hours feel like days. You row, you strain, but it's as though the sea is pushing back, determined to drag you down. You can't tell where you are anymore. Can't tell if the land you saw in the distance was real or just a hallucination. A cruel trick of the mind. The small boat groans, its wooden frame splintering under the strain. You keep your eyes forward, keep your grip on the oar, but you feel your strength slipping away, your body growing weaker with every stroke. And yet there's nothing else you can do but keep moving, keep paddling, as though there's some distant hope ahead. You think about the land, but it feels further away than it ever did before. The horizon seems to stretch endlessly before you, mocking you with its emptiness, and you wonder if it's just a mirage. If there's nothing but this sea, this storm, this relentless tide that won't stop until it has taken you, like it has taken everything else. The men beside you are starting to lose their resolve. You can see it in their eyes, the way their shoulders slump, the way they stop paddling in the face of the endless sea. Some are whispering to themselves, muttering prayers that get lost in the roar of the wind. Others just stare ahead, their faces pale, as though they've already accepted what's coming. You want to tell them to keep going, to keep fighting, but you can't find the words. It doesn't matter. They can see it too. The futility of it all. The sea isn't a thing you can conquer. It's a force that simply takes, and takes, until nothing is left but the wreckage of those who tried to challenge it. You think about the men who stayed behind, about the ship that's now nothing more than debris floating somewhere in the distance. The mutiny seems so distant now, like a memory from another lifetime. The crew that once fought for control is gone. Now, it's just you and the sea, and the brutal reality that you're alone, helpless, fighting for survival, in a world that doesn't care if you live or die. The boat creaks again, louder this time, and you wonder if this is it, the moment when it finally breaks apart, when the sea claims its due. You're too tired to fight anymore, too tired to even care. But you row. You keep rowing, because what else can you do? And as you feel the salt water sting your face, you wonder if you're rowing toward salvation or if the sea has already decided your fate. The boat grinds to a halt against the rocky shore, the hull scraping against the jagged rocks as the waves push it closer. You can hardly believe it. Land. After what feels like an eternity at sea, the solid ground beneath your feet seems like a miracle, even though the earth is cold and barren. It's not the lush paradise you imagined in your dreams during the long days adrift. The land is rocky, empty, silent. It stretches out before you, vast and unforgiving, not a sign of life in sight. The wind still howls, but it's not the deafening roar of the storm anymore. It's a quiet, mournful whistling through the desolate terrain, as though nature itself is unsure what to make of you. The shore is nothing like the hope you'd imagined. No shelter, no signs of civilization, no food waiting to be found. Just endless stone, sand, and the overwhelming sense that you're alone, more alone than you've ever been. You stand on the beach, the rest of the men slowly disembarking behind you, their faces gaunt and hollow with exhaustion. They stumble onto the shore, unsure whether to collapse or take in the sight before them. This is it. This is where it all ends, or where it begins again, though no one is sure which it will be. The waves roll in rhythmically, as if the sea itself is mocking your survival. You can feel the weight of the ocean still in your bones, the memory of the storm that brought you here, and the crushing uncertainty of what comes next. This land could be the salvation you dreamed of, or it could be the graveyard for everything you've endured. You take a step forward, your foot sinking into the soft earth beneath you, but there's nothing comforting about the ground. It feels foreign, unwelcoming, like you don't belong here. You wonder how many more steps it will take before the exhaustion completely overwhelms you, before your legs give way beneath you and you collapse onto the earth, finally succumbing to the weight of it all. But still, you move forward. The men gather around you, silent, their faces blank with the kind of resignation you've seen in every survivor. Those who have lived through too much, lost too much. They don't look to each other for comfort anymore. There's nothing left to say. No one talks about what they expected to find. They know this land is empty. They know it's just a barren stretch of earth, as lonely and unforgiving as the sea that brought them here. You can feel their eyes on you, but you don't know what they expect from you. Leadership? Hope? They're all just empty words now. There's no future here, not yet, not until someone makes a plan, and no one is sure how to begin. Everyone is too tired, too broken, to care about the next step. They just want to sleep, to rest, to forget. You can hear them whispering, muttering about the possibility of finding food, of making shelter. But it's clear from the way they look at the landscape that they have no idea where to start. The land stretches out before them, cold and indifferent, and they don't know how to survive it. It's worse than you thought. The reality is settling in, thick and heavy, like the salt that still clings to your skin. This land doesn't care about your struggles, your survival. The rocks are sharp beneath your feet, the sand is coarse, and the air is dry, not the cool, refreshing breeze you'd hoped for. The wind cuts through your clothes, and you can feel the chill seeping into your bones. There's no forest to find shelter in, no river to drink from, no crops to harvest. Just barren earth, nothing growing, nothing living. You stare out at the vastness of it, feeling more lost than you did at sea, because at least on the water, you knew your enemy. The sea was unpredictable, but at least it was something. Here, on land, there's nothing but the crushing weight of silence and the harsh reality of what you now face. You're alone, stranded, and there's no promise that you'll survive. A few of the men break off from the group, wandering toward the rocky hills in the distance, their movements slow, as though they're not sure what they're searching for. You wonder if they believe they'll find something. A village, a river, a tree with fruit to pick. But you know better. There's nothing here, just endless rocks and dust. The land offers no comfort. The promise of safety that you clung to as the boat rocked in the storm now feels like a cruel joke. There is no escape. You thought the sea was the enemy, but this land, this lifeless stretch of earth, feels worse. The ship is gone, but the fight is far from over. You want to believe in something, anything. You want to believe that this land will offer what the sea never could. But the truth is sinking in. You've escaped one kind of prison, only to find yourself trapped in another. The land offers nothing. It's barren, empty, unforgiving. The only thing it gives you is the slow, grinding realization that survival here will be harder than you ever imagined. You look at the horizon, the long, empty stretch of land, and feel a wave of helplessness wash over you. The ship may be gone, but the struggle for survival is only just beginning. The sun beats down relentlessly, scorching your skin, and you can already feel the weight of it pulling at your body. You stagger forward, one foot dragging behind the other, feeling the heat seeping through your bones. The land offers no shade, no relief, just an unbroken stretch of harsh, unforgiving earth. You can see the men scattered around you, each one searching for something, anything, that could make the difference between life and death. But it's all a cruel joke. The land is empty. There's no food here, no fresh water, no shelter from the brutal sun. You can hear the wind whistling across the rocks, the only sound that breaks the oppressive silence of the barren landscape. You try to ignore the gnawing ache in your stomach, the thirst that seems to swallow you whole. It feels like your body is failing you, one slow, painful step at a time. But you keep moving. You have to. The same hopelessness that clung to you on the ship is still here, only now it's more personal, more immediate. On the ship, you could blame the storm, the mutiny, the captain. There were others to share the blame with, others to hold accountable. But now, it's just you. No one else to blame. No one to turn to for help. The reality sinks in, heavy and suffocating. You can't run from this. You can't hide behind anything anymore. It's just survival. And right now, it feels like you're losing. Every day that passes, the weakness in your body grows stronger, the hunger sharper. The land doesn't care that you're trying. The sun doesn't care that you fought to survive the sea. The rocks beneath your feet don't care that you've made it this far. The world is indifferent to your struggle. It doesn't owe you anything. And if you don't find a way to make it through, that's the end of it. No grand story, no last-minute salvation, just a slow death that no one will witness. You can't even bring yourself to believe that anyone will remember your name. You watch the others, the men who have endured the same trials, their bodies showing the same signs of strain, the same hollow eyes. Some of them are starting to break, mentally, physically. You can see it in the way they move, the way they look at the landscape like it's mocking them, daring them to find anything that will give them hope. But there's nothing. Some of them speak of leaving, of trying to venture farther into the hills, but it's clear that they've already given up. They're just looking for a way out, a way to escape the torment of a world that doesn't care if they live or die. And you wonder if you're just as close to breaking. You tell yourself to keep going, to keep searching for something, for anything. But your body aches, your muscles are stiff, and your mouth is dry, the thirst turning into something darker, more insistent. You don't know how much longer you can keep moving. You don't know how much longer you can keep pretending that there's something out there waiting for you. The truth is, you're running out of options. The water is gone, the food is gone, and the land offers no relief. The men are already starting to talk about rationing, but you know it won't matter. There's nothing left to ration. The hunger gnaws at your stomach, but it's not just the hunger for food. It's a hunger for something more, something to remind you that you haven't wasted your fight. You've already watched men fall, seen them weakened by the same conditions, the same lack of resources. You can hear their voices in your head, the ones who whispered that this land was no different from the ship, that survival was always going to be a matter of luck, and that the odds were never in anyone's favor. The words replay over and over, like an echo bouncing off the barren landscape, reminding you that this, too, could be the end. The air is thick with the scent of dust and decay. The ground beneath you feels unforgiving, unyielding. Every step feels like it takes you farther from the hope you once clung to. You look at the men beside you, wondering how much longer they'll last. You wonder how much longer you'll last. You wonder if you'll die here, alone in this vast, empty wasteland, and whether anyone will even remember you. But you can't stop moving. You can't stop trying. Because in the end, that's all you have left, the will to survive. To keep putting one foot in front of the other, even when it feels like there's no reason to. There's no one to help you now. No one to blame. It's all on you. And the weight of it is suffocating. The world doesn't care. It never has. The land doesn't care. It's just you, struggling to survive. And for the first time since you've been here, you realize just how fragile that survival is. You realize that you might not make it, and there's no one left to save you. The wind picks up suddenly, the first sign of what's to come. You don't need to look at the sky to know something's wrong. The air changes, thickens, and the hairs on the back of your neck stand on end. The sea, calm for the briefest of moments, starts to ripple, small waves swelling as if gathering strength. The sky, once clear, begins to cloud over with unnatural speed, the darkened horizon swallowing the sun. It's the kind of storm you know without needing to see it, the kind of storm you recognize from the ship, the kind that holds no mercy, no promise of survival. It's the kind of storm that turns everything upside down, that makes you wish you'd never left the ship, never left the safety of the known, even if it was a prison. You look to the others, but their faces mirror what you already feel. Dread, uncertainty, fear. No one speaks. No one has to. The world is telling you everything you need to know. The storm isn't a surprise, not really. It was always there, always waiting, just beyond the edge of the horizon. You can't escape it. You can't outrun it. It's coming for you, and it's not going to stop until it's taken everything. The first gust of wind hits like a slap, pushing you backward and making you stumble. You grab for something solid, your hands slipping on the rocky shore as the sky darkens further. The men around you scramble to gather their things, their faces twisted with panic, but it's too late for preparation. There's nothing to save you now. The storm is upon you, and with it, the same crushing helplessness you felt on the ship. The same knowledge that nature doesn't care, that it will take what it wants and leave nothing behind. You wonder, for the briefest moment, if it's the same storm, if this is the same endless cycle that's been chasing you since you set foot on the water. The sea churns as though it's angry, furious at being denied, furious at being forgotten. Waves crash against the shore, violent, merciless, as if the world is shaking you off, as if it's tired of you, tired of your pathetic attempts at survival. The wind howls again, louder now, and you feel it in your bones, the cold, the unrelenting cold that seems to seep into your very soul. You can barely stand against it. The sand is ripped from the ground, swirling around you in gusts, stinging your eyes, your skin, as you struggle to stay upright. You know what's coming. You know this isn't the kind of storm that passes. This is nature's wrath, and it has nothing left to give you. The boat that once seemed like your salvation is already being swallowed by the sea. It's pushed too far from the shore, pulled by the surging waves, as though it's just another plaything for the ocean. You hear the men shouting, but their voices are drowned out by the howling wind, their movements frantic, desperate. But it's no use. There's nothing to save them. There's nothing to save any of you. You feel the weight of the storm settle over you, pressing down on your chest, suffocating you with its power. You can't breathe. You can't think. All you can do is watch, helpless, as everything you fought for begins to crumble. The boat, the land, the hope of survival, gone in an instant. The storm is an unstoppable force, and you're caught in it. You can hear the others, their screams rising above the wind, but they're swallowed almost immediately, lost to the fury of nature. The sea roars as it rises, waves now towering above you, crashing against the rocks, pulling everything in its wake. The land, the thing that you thought would be your refuge, is nothing more than a trap, a cruel reminder that you have nowhere to go, nowhere to run. You can't survive here. Not like this. Not against something so much bigger than you. The men around you are breaking, some of them falling to their knees, others clinging to whatever they can find. But there's no safety here. There's no salvation. The storm isn't going to let you off the hook. It's just the beginning, the first wave of a series of blows that you can't possibly withstand. You thought the sea was your enemy, but it turns out the sea was just a messenger. Nature itself is the true adversary, and it won't stop until you've been ground into the earth, reduced to nothing but a memory. Your body is trembling now, shaking with the cold, the wind, the realization that there's no escape from this. The world, vast and indifferent, is pressing in on you, and it doesn't care about your struggle. It doesn't care about your survival. You've reached the end, the point where there's no more fighting, no more hope. There's only the storm, the relentless, unforgiving storm, and you realize, with a sinking feeling in your gut, that it might just be the thing that finally breaks you. There is no way out. There never was. The storm is your fate now. The world has decided. The storm has passed, leaving behind a silence so thick it presses against your chest, suffocating you with its weight. The wind that once screamed like a living thing has settled into a haunting stillness, and the sea, which had roared so violently, is now eerily calm, like the aftermath of something too terrible to comprehend. You're alone now, completely alone. The men who once rode beside you, the ones who fought and bled with you, are gone. Whether they've been claimed by the sea, torn apart by the storm, or dragged into the abyss by the hunger, it doesn't matter. They are gone, and you remain, standing on the same desolate shore that welcomed you with empty promises of refuge. The land hasn't changed. It's still barren, unforgiving, just as it was when you first set foot here. The sky is a dull gray, as if even the heavens are exhausted by what has transpired. You can see the remains of the boat, barely visible against the shifting sand, a broken shell of what had been your last hope for escape, the wreckage of your dreams. The others' bodies, once warm with the breath of life, now lie scattered across the shore, victims of the elements, of the choices made in desperation. Some are still where they fell, crumpled, their faces twisted in the agony of their final moments. Others, what's left of them, have been carried off by the tide, left to rot in the unforgiving sea. It's almost peaceful in its cruelty, the way nature takes what it's owed, as though the struggle of survival was nothing more than a momentary distraction. You're not sure when it happened, when the men began to fall, one by one, slipping into madness, or sickness, or simply the crushing weight of despair. Perhaps it was the hunger that drove them first, gnawing at them until they turned on each other, eyes wild with fear and hunger. Or maybe it was the storm, the brutal reminder that even after everything, after all the pain and suffering, nature would still strike, still take its toll. You can't remember the last time you spoke to anyone, the last time you heard another voice that wasn't your own. Now, all you hear is the sound of your own breathing, and it feels foreign, like a noise that doesn't belong here. You step over the bodies, careful not to disturb them, though you know it doesn't matter anymore. The dead can't be moved, can't be helped. You wonder if you'll end up just like them, another nameless corpse scattered across this barren wasteland. It's all that's left, really. The land offers no shelter, no food, no hope. The storm has passed, but the storm inside you remains. The storm of survival, of regret, of guilt. You wonder if anyone would even bother to bury the dead. It seems pointless. What would it matter? The world has already forgotten them. It has already forgotten you. No one will ever know the names of those who sailed with you, those who died with you. All that's left are their bodies, scattered, abandoned. Victims of forces far beyond their control, forces that never cared whether they lived or died. The air is still cold, despite the sun making its return. It feels wrong, the warmth of the sun without any real comfort, as though the earth itself is mocking your struggle, offering something that looks like salvation, but is empty, hollow. You want to feel something, relief, anger, even sadness, but all you feel is numb and alone. The pain that once tore at you, the desperate will to survive, has been replaced by something else, a resigned acceptance. This is it. This is the end. There's no more fight left in you. You've outlasted everyone else, but it doesn't feel like a victory. It feels like defeat, like you've been playing a game that no one wins. You wander across the beach, your steps slow and heavy, the weight of your body dragging you down with each movement. There's nothing to see here, nothing to do. The world stretches out before you, barren, endless, and you realize with a sickening clarity that you have nothing left. There's no crew, no captain, no hope. There's only the land, the sea, and you. And yet, in this endless wasteland, you wonder if it would be easier to lie down, to give in to the inevitability of it all. The sun beats down, but it does nothing to warm you. The wind carries the scent of salt, of decay, but it does nothing to stir your soul. The dead are your company now. They are all that's left, and you realize they might be better off. At least they don't have to feel the emptiness, the crushing weight of being alive in a world that doesn't care if you exist. You sit on the ground, the sand cold beneath you, and you stare out at the horizon, wondering if you'll make it another day. But there's no point in asking anymore. The question doesn't matter. You have no answers. There is no victory in survival here. There's only the quiet, creeping knowledge that survival doesn't mean anything when there's nothing left to live for. The final reckoning has come, and you're left with nothing but the remnants of a life that's already been lost. The world has taken its toll, and there's nothing left to give. You are alone, and it's always been this way. The ocean stretches out before you, an endless expanse of water that once seemed to offer a path to freedom. Now, it is a vast, oppressive thing, a graveyard for everything that came before. You stand at the edge of the shore, the waves lapping gently at your feet, and in the distance, the sun is setting. Its golden light reflects off the water, but it offers no warmth. The ship is gone. It lies beneath the waves now, swallowed whole by the sea, a broken thing, its timbers cracked and splintered, its sails torn and fluttering in some ghostly wind that no longer exists. You can't even bring yourself to feel anger for the ship, or even for the sea that claimed it. The ship had been more than just a vessel. It had been your hope, your escape, your symbol of a life beyond the wreckage of everything that came before. And now it's gone. The ship had been a kingdom of sorts, a microcosm of everything you had ever dreamed of. At first, it had been filled with the sounds of life, the cries of the gulls, the creaking of the ropes, the shouts of men working, striving for something. There had been days when the sun was warm and the sea was calm, and everything felt right. You could hear the waves crash against the hull in a way that almost sounded like reassurance, like the promise of something good. The ship had been the promise of escape. It had been your salvation, your purpose, a place to belong when everything else in the world felt like it was falling apart. But that promise never came to fruition. It was just an illusion, something you clung to because there was nothing else. The storm that had torn it apart had made sure of that. The crew, the dreams, the hope, all of it swept away by a force so much bigger than anything you could ever understand. Now, the ship's broken carcass lies at the bottom of the ocean, its once proud sails nothing but seaweed and driftwood, its hull split open like the remnants of some ancient battle. It feels strange to think of it like this. Once, that ship had been everything. It had been the future. It had been the place where, no matter how desperate things had gotten, you had believed there was something worth fighting for. And now, it's just another part of the past, another thing lost to time. Its bones rest at the ocean's bottom, consumed by the relentless waves, the unforgiving sea. You wonder how long it will take before the memory of the ship is just that, a memory, fading into the salt and sand. You wonder if anyone will remember it, or if anyone will remember you. As the last of the day's light fades, you sit on the shore, your body aching with exhaustion, and you find yourself reflecting on everything the ship had been. It had been a dream once, the promise of something more. But dreams have a way of dying when reality sets in. The ship had become a place of suffering, of survival, of brutality. But in the beginning, it was something else. It was a chance, a possibility. Even in the darkest moments, there had been some flicker of hope, some belief that you could make it. That somehow, despite the mutiny, the violence, the constant threat of death, you would survive. But now, that ship lies at the bottom of the ocean, and you are left with nothing but the wreckage of what was. The crew, those faces that once held so much promise, are scattered. Some are gone beneath the waves, some in the cold grip of hunger, others claimed by the sickness that spread like wildfire. It doesn't matter anymore. The ship had kept you all tethered together, for better or worse, and now that it's gone, so too are they. Each death, each soul lost, feels like another part of you slipping away. You thought you could rebuild from this. You thought that if you made it to land, if you found something to anchor yourself to, things would get better. But all that's left is a barren landscape, the skeletons of the men who tried and failed to survive, and the silence of a world that doesn't care. The ship, in all its wrecked glory, is now nothing more than a distant memory, a chapter in your life that was written in blood, salt water, and despair. As the night sets in, you realize that the ship will never return. Its timber will never rise above the waves again. There's no going back. The ship is gone, and with it, any hope of salvation it once promised. The ocean, that vast, unfeeling expanse, has claimed it, just as it claims everything else. You wonder if the sea ever tires of taking, if it ever grows bored of the wreckage it leaves behind. But that's not for you to know. The world has already shown you what it is. The storm took what was left of the ship, and now all that remains is the memory of what could have been. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the waves lull you into a strange, empty peace. The ship is gone, but it still haunts you, as everything does. It is a symbol of something lost, something beyond your control. And now, as you sit alone on the shore, you realize that the hardest part isn't the survival, it's learning to let go. The ship is gone, and with it, so are the last of the illusions you had clung to. All that remains is the sea, the land, and the silence. The world hasn't changed. It's just you that's different now. You sit on the shore, the weight of everything that's happened pressing down on you like the ocean's endless waves. The wind has died down, leaving only the soft whisper of the water against the sand, but the silence feels heavier than the storm ever did. You wonder if it's this silence, the empty stillness, that truly marks the end. The ship is gone, the men are gone, and what remains is the harsh reality of survival. You can feel it now, in every ache in your body, in every empty space in your mind. This was never a journey to salvation. It was a countdown to the inevitable. and you were just too stubborn to realize it until it was too late. You think back to when it all started, when you first stepped aboard the ship. The sense of adventure had been intoxicating, the promise of treasure, freedom, a new life beyond the mundane. You thought you were joining something great, something larger than yourself. But from the moment you boarded, there had been cracks, small ones at first, that you refused to see. The captain was harsh, yes, but you told yourself it was just part of the job. He was supposed to be a leader after all. But what you didn't realize was that leadership doesn't come from power alone. It comes from something deeper, something real. And the captain never had that. He was a tyrant in a uniform, playing a role that was too big for him. His cruelty was a mask, one that hid the deeper insecurities, the instability that had been there from the start. But you followed him, and in doing so, you became complicit in his madness. The mutiny had been inevitable. There was no other choice once the captain's behavior became too much. You could feel the tension in the air, thick like smoke, suffocating every moment. You weren't the first to rebel. You were just one of the last to speak out. By the time the idea of mutiny took shape, the ship had already become a place of survival, not a place of hope. There was no vision anymore, no dream of freedom. There was only the fight to stay alive. The crew had split, lines were drawn, and when it finally happened, it was as brutal as you'd imagined. But the mutiny wasn't the end. It was just another step in a path that had been laid long before. You'd removed the captain, but you had no plan for what came next. The ship, like the crew, was fractured, broken beyond repair. You thought you could rebuild it, that somehow a new order would emerge from the chaos, but there was no rebuilding what was already lost. The storm that followed had wiped out everything that was left. You wonder how much of it was fate and how much was your own decisions. The men who died, the ones who never made it, were they victims of their own choices, or was this always going to happen? The question feels pointless now. The lives lost aren't coming back. The broken ship, the lost hopes, they're all gone. You can't change the past, no matter how much you wish you could. No matter how many times you replay the events in your mind, none of it changes the outcome. You were part of it. You stood by and watched as the chaos unfolded, as the crew turned on each other, as the struggle for control bled into violence, and you did nothing to stop it. You might have told yourself that survival was your only priority, but the truth is, survival isn't enough when it comes at the expense of everything else. You failed to see that, failed to understand it until it was too late. Now, as you sit here, alone on the beach, the lessons have finally settled in. You didn't survive because you were stronger, or smarter, or luckier. You survived because you were too stubborn to give up. But there's no pride in that. The stubbornness that kept you alive also kept you blind. It kept you from seeing the collapse that was inevitable, the death of something that had no foundation. You understand it now, but understanding doesn't bring comfort. You didn't survive because of any virtue. You survived because the others were weaker, or because fate had another plan for them. It's the hardest lesson to learn, that sometimes survival isn't about doing everything right. Sometimes it's just about who happens to stay standing when the world collapses around you. You look out at the horizon, the ocean stretching out forever, as it always has, indifferent to the suffering of those who sail on it. You realize now that it doesn't matter how many battles you win. It doesn't matter if you fight back against the storm, or against the men around you, or against the world itself. The ship was never meant to survive. None of it was. It was a vessel for dreams, for ambition, for hope, and in the end, it was swallowed whole by the very thing it sailed on. You think about the men you lost, and you wonder if, in the end, it would have been better to just give up earlier, to not try so hard to hold on. The storm took them, yes, but so did the decisions, the desperation, the choices made in those final moments. The sun sinks lower, the colors fading from the sky as you remain where you are, sitting in the quiet, empty world that now surrounds you. The ship is gone, the crew is gone, and you're left with nothing but the broken remnants of what could have been. You can't change it. You can't fix it. All you can do now is survive, but even that doesn't feel like a victory. It just feels like another day in a world that never cared to begin with. The land beneath your feet feels different now, but you don't know if that's a blessing or a curse. The sun hangs low in the sky, casting long, shallow shadows across the barren earth. For a moment, it looks peaceful. Too peaceful. Almost, you want to believe that you've found something new, something better. But the weight of everything you've been through lingers in the pit of your stomach, a reminder that nothing is ever as simple as it seems. The mutiny, the storm, the ship's ruin. It all feels like another life now, like a bad dream you've woken up from. But the nightmare is still there, hanging on the edge of your thoughts. You wonder if you'll ever be free of it. Maybe you've escaped the sea, but the ocean's grip is in your bones, in your mind. Every step on this land, every breath of air, is tainted by that. The ship is gone. The crew is gone. And yet here you are, alone again, just trying to survive. The horizon stretches out endlessly, like the ocean once did, and the thought strikes you. Maybe you're no better off than you were before. Maybe you've just swapped one prison for another. The crew was your family, for better or worse. They were the faces you shared your pain with, your hope with, even if that hope had been nothing but a fragile illusion. Now you're left with nothing but the crumbling remnants of their bodies, scattered across the land, as silent as the ocean itself. You didn't want to be alone, but the isolation creeps in all the same. The land offers no warmth, no comfort, and the hunger gnaws at your insides. You've fought through storms, mutinies, sickness, and starvation, but it's this emptiness that might finally break you. You look around, trying to find something to focus on, something to make this all feel real, something to give you a reason to keep moving. But there's nothing. The land is as barren as the shipwrecked memories in your mind. The earth beneath you feels cold, unwelcoming. You wonder if the survival instinct you thought was driving you has just become another way of numbing yourself. You can't ignore the truth anymore. Survival isn't a victory, it's a punishment. It's something that wears you down, piece by piece, until you're left questioning whether it's even worth the effort. You don't even know what you're fighting for anymore. What's left to save? What's left to fight for? Every step you take forward feels like a futile attempt to outrun the past. You don't trust the land to be kind. You know what the world is capable of. It took everything from you before, and it could take you again. It's easy to tell yourself that survival is worth it, that there's something waiting for you around the next corner. But deep down, you know that's just another lie you're telling yourself. Every inch of this land is just as brutal as the ocean, just as unforgiving. The landscape may be different, but the fight is the same. You can't escape the feeling that you're back at the beginning, stuck in an endless cycle of struggle, just moving from one fight to the next, always pushing, always clawing your way through, but never actually getting anywhere. You sit down for a moment, the exhaustion from your endless wandering settling into your bones. You try to breathe, to steady yourself, but your mind won't stop racing. What's the point of all this? You've already lost so much. You've fought so hard to survive, and for what? The land offers no answers. There's no shelter, no food, no promise of better days. There's only the next step, the next struggle, the next moment of survival. It doesn't feel like a life worth living. It feels like a waiting game, a long, drawn-out battle that you're bound to lose. And yet, you can't stop. You can't stop moving forward, because that's all you know how to do. You've never been good at giving up. The mutiny was a choice, the storm a disaster. But survival? That's something you've been fighting for your entire life. It's instinct, something you can't shake off, no matter how much you might want to. Even in the face of overwhelming odds, even when every part of you wants to just collapse and let it all go, the instinct to survive is there, driving you, pushing you, making you take another step, even though you don't know why. You think about the crew. You think about the way things were, the way you'd all held on to hope, the way you fought together, even when everything seemed lost. But now that hope is gone, and it's replaced by something heavier, something colder, the land, the sea. They're both just stages for the same brutal game. You realize you can't outrun it. No matter where you go, no matter what you do, the struggle will always follow. It's not about winning. It's not about survival. It's just about keeping going, because that's all you can do. The night falls, and the stars are hidden behind clouds that feel like an omen. You wonder if you'll ever get out of this cycle, if you'll ever find peace, or if this will be your life from now on. A life spent wandering through a world that doesn't care, fighting just to exist. Maybe you're better off here, alone, where there's nothing left to hold on to, nothing left to destroy. The struggle continues, but what's the point? What's the end game? You don't know. But as you stand there, under the weight of it all, you know one thing for sure. Survival isn't enough. It never was. The sea hasn't changed. It never does. You can feel it in your bones, in the salt of the air, in the weight of the horizon stretching out before you. The endless blue, so deceptive, so constant. You've been running from it for so long, thinking that somehow, some way, you could outlast it, outrun it. But now, as the sun sinks low, casting shadows that stretch across the empty shore, you know that you never had a chance. The ship is gone, the crew is gone, and all that remains is you, alone, with the sea stretching endlessly ahead, taunting you with its promise of oblivion. You thought the struggle would end when you reached land, when you finally stepped onto solid ground. But there was no solid ground. There was only the same desolation that the sea had promised you, the same fight for survival that had torn the crew apart, that had swallowed your hope and dreams. And now, as you stand on the edge of it, staring out at the nothingness, you know that there's nothing left. The cycle of survival, the constant striving, the hope that you could somehow change your fate, it's all a lie. The sea takes what it wants. The land doesn't offer salvation. And the truth, the hard truth, is that death has always been there, just beneath the surface. It's the only constant in a world full of chaos, and it will take you in the end, just as it takes everything. You feel it in the quiet that follows the storm. The silence feels like a punishment, like the calm before something worse. It isn't peace. It isn't the end of your struggle. It's just the inevitable lull before the final wave, the last gust of wind, the last breath of air. There's no fighting it now. There's no more rebellion, no more survival. There's only the sea, and you, and the hollow, empty space that stretches between the two. The crew is dead. The captain is dead. The mutiny, the battle for control, the desperate struggle for a better life. It's all over now. All that remains is the stillness. The waves crash against the shore, each one a reminder of the futility of it all. The sea has claimed what it wants. It always does. And now, there's nothing left to fight for. No more bodies to bury, no more souls to save. Just you, alone, watching the fading light, feeling the weight of your own existence slowly slipping away. You think about the men who died, the ones who fought beside you, the ones who fell along the way. They're gone, just like the ship, just like the hope that once burned bright in your chest. Maybe they had a chance, maybe they didn't. But in the end, it doesn't matter. The sea doesn't care about your struggles, your victories, your losses. It takes what it wants, and if you're lucky, it'll let you linger a little longer. But there's no escaping it. There's no running. It's coming for you. It always has been. Your body aches, the hunger gnawing at your insides, the exhaustion settling into your bones. You wonder if it'll be slow, the way your end comes. Will it be the sea that takes you, or will it be the elements, the starvation, the sickness that finally brings you down? It doesn't matter. It never did. Death has been there from the start, waiting for its turn, just like it waits for everything else. The sea has no mercy, no sympathy. It doesn't care if you've suffered, if you've fought. It doesn't care if you've survived this long. In the end, survival doesn't matter. You're caught in the same cycle, the same endless struggle that the men before you faced. They tried to fight it. They tried to survive. And look where it got them. You're no different. The sea is still here, waiting. And when it decides you're done, it will take you, just as it has taken everyone else who's come before. The ship is gone. But the fight was never really about the ship. It was about surviving in a world that doesn't care if you live or die. The sea doesn't ask. It just takes. And now, it's your turn. You look out at the water, the last thing you see before the darkness sets in. You know what's coming. You know how this ends. It's the only thing left that's certain. It was always going to end this way. And as the light fades, you wonder if it was worth it. The struggle, the fight for survival, the endless pushing forward, was it worth it? Or was the true victory never in surviving, but in finally accepting that it's all part of the same cycle? The rise and fall of men, the never-ending crash of waves against the shore. The sea doesn't care about victory. It doesn't care about anything. It just keeps moving. And in the end, it takes everything, just as it always does. You, too, are a part of it. The final chapter, written in salt and bone,